nation building. Please stay with us. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, so can we meet you?
Hi, my name's Shelley. I'm the Senior International Marketing Officer at the University of Bradford, and I'm here today for the Inbuilt Nigeria event.
Oh, beautiful. So you organized the event?
Yeah, the University of Bradford is organising the event in conjunction with organisations in Nigeria, so we're really happy to be here as part of this event.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so what has been the most exciting part organizing the event?
Well, I really love to come to Nigeria to meet Nigerian students or potential students and young leaders of Nigeria. Um, they're so they're so diverse in their interests, but they all have one thing in common is that they want to make the world a better place. They want to progress well in their lives. They want to become leaders. They want a better future for themselves and for their country. So that's what I really love organising and getting ready to meet these students and to plan which events will be really useful for them in order to fulfil their dreams.
All right, thank you so much, Shelley. Wow, you're most welcome to this event. But then I'd like to ask you a few questions. But before that, can we meet you?
My name is Sharafuddin Junaid.
Okay.
I'm the IT personnel in Heritage Global Academy. Heritage Global Academy.
So you said Sheriff, right?
Sheriff.
Sheriff. Oh, Sheriff. Good to have you here. How did you hear about this event?
Actually, is the proprietor of the school who introduced us to this program, and he asked us to come to represent the school with the students from the school.
Interesting. So, what do you hope to take out of this event?
The mission of the school is that our students should be the best of the best, not only in Nigeria but all over the world. And we believe in the best education and values of life for our students.
Thank you.
So we have some of the students who have who are studying abroad as a result of getting scholarship. So most of our students, they usually come out with very fantastic results. So because of this, we want them to attend the program to also incite these present students to have the same idea with the past ones, so that they can also pursue scholarship, and if they are lucky enough.
All right. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for coming on the red carpet. Please enjoy the event. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine.
All right. Can I meet you?
Okay, so my name is Aisha Rabiu from Heritage Global Academy, Ikorodu, Lagos State. I'm 15 years old and I'm a student.
Wow, you're 15 years old. Interesting. So tell me, what do you intend to gain from this? What do you think or rather, what do you hope to see in this event?
Okay, I hope to get to know the personal skills, the academic skills, and the general skills needed to enter universities abroad, and to also get to know what requirements Bradford University needs to get admission into.
Oh, beautiful. Have you attended something like this before?
But it was in my school. Another university like this came to my school to tell us their requirements and all things like this.
All right, thank you so much. Enjoy the event. Hi.
Hi,
Oh, good to have you here.
thank you.
All right, can we meet you?
My name is Jemmy O'Doyle.
Your name is what?
Jemmy O'Doyle.
Jemmy. Oh, Jemmy O'Doyle. Jemmy O'Doyle. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. What school do you represent?
I'm representing Temple College,
Temple College. What class are you in?
Year 12. Year 12.
Oh, year 12. Interesting. So, how did you get to hear about this?
From my school, but we are currently going for different fairs and leadership camps. So, yes, I got to hear about it from my school.
Okay, so did you come here because your school brought you here, or you came here because you have an intention to learn something?
Came here because I do have an intention to learn several things.
Oh, several things. Would you like to tell us some?
Yes, I hope to be prepped to lead the youth of Nigeria, because I believe strongly in everyone and the youth in Nigeria in general, and I hope to be a strong leader, and I hope this event will help me in my journey to do so.
Thank you so much. I would have said your name again, but then not like I don't remember. I don't want to murder your name. All right, enjoy the event. Can we meet you?
Okay, I'm Oluwatomi Balogun.
Oluwatomi Balogun. Okay, so how did you get to be in this event today?
I teach at Temple College, and by virtue of my other position as a residence manager, I was directed to accompany the students for this leadership summit today.
Oh, interesting. So, aside being directed to bring the student here, do you have any intention of your own to gain something from this event?
Yeah, it's an opportunity for me to get some more knowledge, get some more insights, and as much as possible, transfer some of it to the other students that are not opportunity to be here today.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Please enjoy the event. Hello.
Hi there, I'm Owen Green from Peace Studies in Bradford.
Interesting. Before you brought these out, before the events came up, what do you have in mind?
The aim of this is that Bradford University has had a lot of engagement with Nigerian students for over 40 years now. We've had many thousands of our graduates come from Nigeria, and the overall philosophy is to give something back, to form a more two-way partnership between Nigerians and Bradford. And the main focus of this is we have some fantastic graduates who are working and playing leadership roles in Nigeria now in different dimensions, who came from Bradford, and we want to help them and support them play an even bigger role in being a role model in Nigeria. And secondly, we want to work with young people or anybody who feels young who wants to then develop their skills in order to play leadership roles on security and development issues in Nigeria.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so what do you have to say to the Nigerian youth who have come here today to attend the event?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to recognize how important they can be in the future development of Nigeria in terms of security and development. The reason why I keep on talking about security and development is because so many people lead lives where they're worried about violence or intimidation, and so I've worked in many contexts around the world in that area, and so it becomes very important that we lead not only in terms of improving health education, but we give the space, including the safe space, for people to work, and that requires leadership. It means good leadership. There's many bad leaders around. There are many people looking for leadership roles who do those roles through division. And the most important principle is to have the vision for unifying people behind joint approaches, which don't marginalize people, but they help build both security and development.
All right, thank you so much for coming on the red carpet. Please enjoy yourself.
No, thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Omar,
Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you too?
Fine, thank you.
All right, it's good to have you here. Can we meet you?
My name is Professor Ngobo Emese. I'm a professor of law and the head of the Law School, University of Bradford.
Oh, interesting. Okay, how has it been organizing this event?
Oh, it's been a lot of work, but it's also been very exciting. It's been fantastic. We've met lots of wonderful people and we've had lots of opportunities to meet a whole range of different people, so it's been brilliant.
Oh, good. So are you convinced right now that the aim or the objective of organizing this event will be met today?
I believe it will be. This is not the first time we're doing this. We first had a program a couple of days ago in Abuja, the same leadership program, which was very well attended. And then we had a schools program afterwards. And the feedback we've got has been fantastic. I think what we have is we've brought together a group of experts who have a passion for leadership and has a desire to contribute to nation building in Nigeria. And then we have our mentors with us as well, who are going to be role models, and we're going to give practical sessions to participants today. So I think it will be met. I think I've just been in the room. I seem to have some fantastic young people. I'm looking forward to it, absolutely.
Oh, interesting. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure are you this is what the Nigerian youth needs?
I wouldn't say this is the only thing the Nigerian youth needs, but certainly I think leadership is important. And when we talk about leadership, we're not just talking about political leadership or people at the very top, but it is this idea that leadership is taking action and doing something wherever you are. So you can be leader at any stage in your life, at any stage in your career. It's about trying to make a change, trying to be the change that you need to be. And all we're trying to do today is to say, everyone has that in them. just equipping them with the tools, the skills to be able to achieve that.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the red carpet. Please enjoy yourself. Morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
All right. Can we meet you?
My name is Enoch Olisa.
Enoch Oldesa. Okay, good to have you here, Enoch. All right. How has it been with you organizing this event?
Okay, for this event, I was in charge of social media and physical publicity for the Lagos event. It's been very exciting, it's been very challenging. Organizing a kind of program that is not very common usually comes with its challenges. One of the challenges is how to really explain it to a Nigerian youth on what the program is all about and how they stand to benefit. So it's been challenging, but we've been able to craft something very narrative and self-explicit based on the theme of the program, inspiring future leaders and transforming nations.
All right. So, with the level at which you have gotten to with the program, are you sure that it is this program will achieve the goal that you set for it?
Yes. I've listened to the interview of some of the attendees. They are really passionate about it. I'm also passionate about leadership. I'm a lifelong student in the School of Leadership. I believe the power of a leader is so immense that the success of any endeavor, be it a group, be it a company, be it a social enterprise, lies in leadership and understanding how it works. So, based on some of the interviews I've listened to, based on the little feedback I've gotten, I think the program is going to be of immense help to them. How it works is it's at events like this that you attendees receive 1, 2, 3 insights that puts them on a path of continuous self-improvement. So I think this kind of event is something that is going to do that for the attendees. And like I said, based on the feedback I've heard from some of the people who have spoken, I think we are on that path.
All right. So, what would you like to say to the young people who will be attending this event today?
Okay, what I would say to them is very simple. There has been a lot of negative examples in the leadership sphere in Nigeria, but trust me too, there have also been very positive examples. And for a society to be a successful one, for a society to rise above its challenges, we need good leaders, we need strong leaders. So to that Nigerian youth who may be privileged toward this, just keep being a very good leader. Keep contributing your part. Keep being a very good example. Keep influencing people. And day by day, little by little, Nigeria will get to a place where we have strong leaders who can build strong institutions, who can lay very good values for upcoming generations.
All right. Thank you so much, Enoch. Please enjoy the event. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing very well too. Okay, good to have you here on the red carpet.
Thank you ever so much.
You're welcome. So I'd like to ask you, what is Inbuilt 2019 all about?
I think I may want to start by introducing myself. My name is Professor Udwa Kachibang, MBE, Professor of Diversity at the University of Bradford, United Kingdom. Inbuilt Nigeria 2019 is a dream come true for me. Bradford University has really benefited from patronage from Nigerians and Nigeria in generic since the beginning of the university in the 60s. And I've been thinking of the best way that we can give back. So Inbuilt 2019 is an opportunity for us to develop young people who we see as future leaders, because in transformation of any nation, you need robust youth.
Yes,
Youth leadership is very important.
All right. Okay, so personally, what would you have the young people who will be here today take home?
We want to remind young people that they have latent leadership skills. So the program is about empowering them to celebrate what they already have in them. The program is a reminder to young people that they are already very resilient. So I'll be talking on resilient leadership. How do you lead others? How do you empower yourself as a leader from any seat? That you don't need title, you don't need authority to be a leader. You're a leader already. How do you bring or unleash those skills that you have for nation building?
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming on the red carpet.
Thank you.
Please enjoy the event.
Thank you very much. you tell them. So if you're not writing, it means you're not a young leader. And I'll be writing shortly because I'm a young leader too. Right, okay. And what we want to do is to acknowledge the talents that we already have in us. So everybody in this room has to remember we are leaders. Those skills are buried in us. And what this program is going to do is to help us unearth, to bring those skills to the fore. That's what we want to do today. So we have different things that will make up the program. I'll just put a few up there. There will be keynote talks. Those are the ones called plenary. There are 2 of such with 3 key speakers. And then you'll have an opportunity to meet people who are young leaders as well. Who knows, there might be a Nollywood star in the midst of us. I'm not one, certainly. I'll try my best to act. I might be one of the witches on Nollywood. Who knows? And then we'll have another session which is actually getting you to talk about different types of leadership skills that you need, the tools that you need. So interact small groups. And who wants to eat? Make una raise una hand now. So we have lunch as well. And then there'll be a panel session which allows you to ask questions. So, who has a phone in this audience? Who has a telephone? Mobile phone? Mobile phone, everybody? Most people? Yes, okay. So I want to go straight into the first session. The first key session is going to be given by no other person but a young leader, a Nigerian, a daughter of the soil, okay? And I don't want you to even guess where that name comes from, because that name can be from south, from northeast, from north central. It all depends on how she wants to position herself. So Professor Ngobo Emese is professor of law. Can you clap now? Which one una dey? Una be professor? Thank you very much. So she heads the law school at the University of Bradford. So Bradford is really, really a great place because we celebrate the diversity that we have, and we have Nigerians who are contributing actively to the university. And that's why we come here regularly with our colleagues to help build our nation. So Professor Emese is one of those, and she's going to talk to us about cultivating leadership for nation building. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Achibong. Good morning, everyone. Did we all have breakfast? Are we raring to go? Yes. Good, excellent. Thank you all for being here. It's a privilege and an honor to stand before you. Just before I start, I want to say, don't think you're here by accident, or don't think that any of the things that we're going to talk about today is not for you. Yeah? This is for you. And please take something. No matter how small, just make sure you take something as you leave here today. So I will be talking about cultivating leadership for nation building. First, I need to work out. Right. Okay. My first slide on there shows you a picture of birds. Don't ask me what kind of birds, because I probably will say the wrong group. I always do. But it's a formation, isn't it? They're flying really high, you've got a lead bird, and you've got others, and it's shaped like a triangle. And there is a reason why it's shaped that way. Because my understanding from those who know these things, because I'm a lawyer, what do I know about nature and things like that, is that each one draws from the other. As they flap their wings, yeah, it creates a slipstream that others follow, so it makes it easier. And they can all arrive at their destination a lot quicker, utilizing less energy. And from time to time, the lead bird will change and another will take over, because the lead bird creates or generates, yeah, much of the initial energy. So that will change. That's what I'm told. And I believe them because they're scientists, aren't they? And I want you to keep this picture in your mind when we talk about leadership and cultivating leadership. Because leadership is dynamic. And we all lead in different ways, and we all bring something different into the equation when we lead and as we lead. And all of us contribute to leadership. So leadership really isn't just about the person at the front, but everybody who works together doing what they need to do or what they ought to do so that everybody can arrive at the destination. So an aspect of leadership really is also about followership. Does that make sense? If you must be a good leader, you must also be a good follower. Yeah? So who is a leader? Somebody wants to have a go? Who is a leader? Can you give me an example of a leader? Anybody? Thank you, my dear.
Well, I believe a leader is somebody who is able to collaborate with his followers and able to see things from their point of view, and he's able to, he's able to lead them, and they're able to follow him because he knows what his people want.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have something else to say? Okay. And then I'll go back and continue.
I believe a leader is someone who inspires others to do great things.
Excellent. I love that as well. A leader is somebody who inspires others to do great things. And that's my next slide. So you see, when Professor Yudi said we already have leaders here, there are people already thinking about this. Leadership really is about somebody who has a vision. They have an end goal. There's something they want to achieve. And they inspire others to work with them to achieve that goal. Yeah? So leadership really, for me, the two key things is, one is vision, and the other is inspiration. You cannot lead yourself all by yourself. Yeah? You cannot lead and achieve all by yourself. So you've got others, you've got to get others to buy into your vision. They've got to believe in your vision. And there are different ways in which we can do that. And in the course of today, we'll talk about some of those. And so from what we've talked about today, a lot of time when we talk about leadership, when I said who can give us an example of a leader, if I said name a leader, people would name some big names, wouldn't you? Yes, your presidents, yeah, and all of that. We think of stereotypes when we think about leadership. That person is the leader. And sometimes we hear this word. The word says natural leader. He's a natural leader. She's a natural leader. She's a born leader. And there are some people who really are born leaders. So if you're fortunate enough to have been born into one of the ruling houses or monarchies, and you happen to be the first child of the person who is next in line, automatically you become, quote unquote, the next leader. You become a king or whatever, a prince or whatever it's called. Some people may be born into leadership. But what I've found is that for most people, leadership is a journey. Most leaders are truly ordinary people. People like you and me and Professor Achibong and all the other people who are going to speak here today, just ordinary people. But ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Leadership is about ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And what that means is that if you must be a leader, you've got to think sometimes out of the ordinary. Yeah? Because if you must do extraordinary things, you've got to get yourself out of a particular mindset, out of a particular box, and think outside of that box. And that's where the visioning is. Because visioning means you see something beyond where you are. You see something beyond what it is. And you want to get there. I've put on some leaders that we all know, global leaders that we all know. And all the people I have on there are all ordinary people who did extraordinary things, or who are still doing extraordinary things, who did not just impact their immediate environment, impact their nations, but indeed the world, and the way of doing things, and the way things we believe in, and all of that. I've got on the top left Gandhi. Do we all know that? And then, of course, we've got, and after that, and after that, okay, below Maya Angelou, excellent, well done. And after that, and after that, and after that, somebody said it. Wangari Maathai, she's Kenyan. She's the first female laureate from Africa. She's an environmentalist. Yeah? Ordinary people, all born to ordinary families, very modest upbringings, very modest lives. But each of them then went on to do something extraordinary. And I say that because sometimes the challenge to our leadership is we think of ourselves, we look at ourselves, and we think it's not us. When people talk about leadership, we think they're talking about somebody else. It's not me. Okay? Because who am I? But what you will find with all of them is they were all on a journey. None of them woke up one day and became the end product. Each took a step, each day, one day at a time. They saw a need and they met a need. One of the most recent ones that you all know, Barack Obama, yeah? Lawyer. And then decided to be a community organizer. I'm sure some people would have looked at him and thought, wasting his time, instead of him to go to one of the top firms. And that's an important aspect of leadership as well. And somebody is going to be talking about, because leadership sometimes really is about following your passion, because we are all different. And we've all got different places in which we do best. And if you follow your passion and do what it is that you believe in, that you know you can contribute, you will excel in there and you will lead. So he was an ordinary community organizer. And he became the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States. And if you think you've got challenges, think of his challenge. Born to a single parent home, at a time when multiracial relationships were pariah, to a mother who then married somebody else and he went to Indonesia and came back, brought up by his grandparents. His mom died, she was ill. Went to university, came back a bit confused at some point. And then he aspires to become the President of the United States with a name like Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, with a black skin. But he made it. He did. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'd also like to talk about Maya Angelou, because for me, she's one of my most inspirational leaders. Had some of the greatest trauma when she was young. Was mute for a while because she couldn't engage personally with what had happened. She was raped. Didn't have formal education, but read literature, loved it. And I've written some of the most globally known poetry of our generation. to the extent that she read one of her original poems at the inauguration of President Clinton. Who's ever heard of Phenomenal Woman? Who's ever heard of Still I Rise? Go and look for them, because those are really important things. Because as a young girl, when I read Phenomenal Woman, I knew that I didn't have to be tall and slim. Yeah, I didn't have to have long legs. Yeah, it didn't matter. That poem spoke to me. She impacted my life. She was a leader. I never met her. Even though she did not have formal education, at the end of her life, she had become a professor at some of the most prestigious universities in the world. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Remember, I talked about anybody can be a leader, and you are a leader where you are today. Don't look for the day you will be like Obama, the day you will be like Maya Angelou, the day you will be like Mother Teresa. Leadership is about leading where you are today. Like my little friend here, who's going to become a graduate. You can start to lead. Because leadership is about today. Where you are today, you can start to lead. And I have got that. For those of you who are on social media, I'm not really on social media much, but I still got to see this. And it was about the first day of school. Did anybody see this image? First day of school, the boy on the right is autistic, so doesn't do very well in new environments. And the boy on the left simply took his hands. Didn't know him from Adam. They didn't know each other. Took his hands and walked with him to the room and helped the boy to feel comfortable. He was demonstrating leadership where he was. So leadership is really about influencing another life today in the situation that you are in. It's not about being a president, it's about being a leader where you are now. So, leadership for nation building. If you want to build a nation, we need everybody with different skills, different expertise in order for us to build a nation. So leadership for nation building means being a leader where you are in whatever sphere of life you operate in. And we need leaders everywhere. Of course we need political leaders. Those who are going to be taking on electoral positions. They're going to campaigns and all of that. Presidents, senators, governors, and all of that. So we need political leaders. But some are business leaders. Yeah? The Dangotes of the world. The Mrs. Ikejas of the world. Some people we need are business leaders. And we need leaders in several other areas. Sports, science, and technology, really important for our modern day. In Nigeria, we have a lot of areas where we need solutions technologically. That can be you. You can be that person who says, you know this problem we have in Nigeria. How about if I apply my basic knowledge in physics and chemistry or whatever, and I can create this and it solves a problem? You become a great leader. Look at the Mike Zuckerbergs of the world. Bill Gates. They were students. They had an idea. They ran with it. And the world of technology as we know it today has been shaped by people like Bill Gates. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things in all spheres of life. And I have on there pictures of people leading in different areas. Because I want you to begin to think a lot more broader around who your leaders are. Your leaders are anybody who can inspire you. And then you step in and inspire another person. And I have there pictures of different people on my extreme right, top right, Wole Soyinka, literature, Nobel laureate. But then I also have up there Onyenka Owenu, yeah, the girl with the golden voice. I know it's not your generation for most of you, but when I was growing up, if you have Onyenka, one love, keep us together. Yeah? And then I have on there people who led from a long time ago. Florence Nightingale, can you identify her there? Yeah, Florence Nightingale, just a nurse. Just a nurse. There were several nurses, but she became a leader amongst nurses. So, Serena Williams, I like her. I think you've seen the pattern there. I like strong women who achieve things. born in Compton, yeah, trained by a father who had no skills or training in tennis, and today dominates the world at 37. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And up there, I have another strong woman from Nigeria, Mrs. Ikeja. How many of you know that name? Trained as a secretary in the United Kingdom, and today she's one of the richest women, having gone into oil industry here in Nigeria. Miriam Makeba, a revolutionary through music. Yeah, South African, but I knew her here in Nigeria. So in whatever area of life you find yourself, you can lead. And not everybody can do everything. Like I say, if my life depends on me being an artist, I would be dead. Because I cannot draw, paint, whatever to save my life. So that's not me. But I know other people who take a pencil and in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, they create a very beautiful picture of you. We've all got different talents. And it's about honing your talent to excel and lead where you are. Now, we've been talking about leadership. We know that not all leaders lead for a good purpose, yes? Sometimes you can have a leader who leads people to what? Destruction. Who lead people to problems. So what we are talking about here today isn't negative leadership. You can have both positive and negative leadership. Leadership for good or leadership for evil. On the left, you have a quintessential leader who led for evil. Yeah? Across the world, I don't think anybody will debate that. That's why I put that up there, Adolf Hitler. Yeah? He was a leader. He was a charismatic leader. He got lots of people to do what, inspired them to do what he wanted them to do. But he did not lead positively. And then on the right, you've got another charismatic leader, Nelson Mandela, who led his people away from through the period of apartheid and managed to keep a nation together without any violence and without any revolutionary, anyway, in the mainstream. So you can either lead positively or you can lead negatively. The kind of leadership we are promoting from Bradford is positive leadership, because I think we've had enough of bad leadership, haven't we? Everybody says that Nigeria's problem is leadership. And I don't know if, perhaps they may not belong to the Adolf Hitler category. They may belong to leaders who just do not know how to lead. So they lead badly. It is not so much that they want to have a wrong purpose, but they may not have the skills or the characters to make them good leaders. So it is possible that you want to do something good, but if you do not have the skills, you will lead badly. And sorry, you can see a pattern. I like my sports as well. Two teams from the same country, 2010 World Cup and 2018 World Cup. How many of you remember those pictures? No? Okay, 2010 World Cup, France. They went to South Africa. The most disorganized team you could have seen. And they left in the first round. One of the teams that was actually initially thought to go deep into the competition. But because they could not get themselves together, there was no leadership to organize them into a winning team, they left in the first round. You had some of the best players. They still had all the talents. Yeah? Evra was still there. They had all the talents. Yeah? Vavavoom, Thierry was on there. So you had talents, but they could not bring all that talent together to win because there was no leadership to inspire and to guide them. And then 8 years later, 2018, the same team, the same country team, they won the World Cup. They put everything together, including the talent of young people like Pogba. Yeah? And Mbappe. Please don't get me into the trouble that this comedian got into. Let's leave it there. About whether or not it was a French team or not. But it was a French team. So, if you may have all the ingredients you need, like we do in Nigeria, everybody says there's no reason why Nigeria is not leading the world. Because we have human resources, we have natural resources, But we've not been able to put them together. We've not been able to have that kind of leadership that puts everything together to make us a great nation that we know we will be. Not we can be, we will be. Yeah? So you need the right talent and you need the right characteristics to lead. And that is why we have this program, because leadership is cultivated. You need to learn. Like everything you grow, you put in the right ingredients, you put in the right elements, and you get the result that you want. So, what are some of the essential elements of cultivating leadership? Leadership starts with you. Your leadership starts with you. You cannot lead others if you've not managed to build yourself up to lead. And it starts first of all from your self-development. And that's why I'm glad you're here today. Very young people, you've started that journey. You've started to develop yourself. You started to build yourself, both through formal education and informal training, informal opportunities that you gain to learn your leadership skills. And then you identify, every leader must identify what their strengths are. Because as brilliant as I am, yeah? As brilliant as I am, there are lots of areas I don't know what to do. Professor Woodruck will tell you that. There are many times I say, Prof, can I ask you something? Because I'm not good at it at all. Okay? Yeah? So it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has got weaknesses. If you identify your strengths, you make your strengths better, and then you identify your challenges and surround yourself with people who can help you improve on those challenges. Part of the problem we have with political leadership in Nigeria is that sometimes we may not be surrounding ourselves with people who are enhancing the areas where we are weak. Does that make sense? The example I gave in Abuja was not a Nigerian, because now if I call a name in Nigeria, it may create problems because we belong in different factions, APC, PPC. Yeah? So I said Donald Trump. If you say, who knows about war? He says, I know better than all the generals. Trade tariffs, I know better than everybody else. There is no area that Donald Trump does not know more than everybody else. Which means he's not taking the advice from his experts. And it's creating some of the problems that we're seeing today in light of some of the decision making in the United States. So identify your strengths, keep building them, acknowledge your challenges, make them better, improve them, but surround yourself with people who can enhance you in those areas where you're weak. And as a leader, you must have confidence. Confidence in what you believe in. Because it's no use thinking, I could do that, but I'm never going to do it. So when they say, who's going to tell me what they think leadership is? And then somebody says, and you say, that was what I was going to say. That was what I was going to say. As a leader, you've got to be confident and believe in yourself. Does that mean you're not going to make mistakes? Absolutely not. You will make mistakes. But one of the things I tell my students, because in law, sometimes they say, I don't want to speak. And I say, you can't be a lawyer, you can't be an advocate if you can't speak. Oh, but I may say the wrong thing. And I often say, listen to the news today and hear how many wrong things our politicians who are leading you say. You must never be embarrassed about making a mistake. Making mistake is part of life. What you mustn't do is remain in your mistake. If you say it out loud and it is wrong, then you learn. Yes? You learn. Next time you don't make that mistake again. So you've got to be confident. Again, confident isn't about being like me, talking up front loudly from the front, because I can do that. Sometimes confidence can be quiet confidence, because there are situations in which we need quiet confidence. Yes? If you're going to lead people to climb a mountain, for instance, it's not about me standing here shouting. Yeah? Sometimes it's about you taking that step and beginning to climb and reaching your hand down to somebody else to say, come on up. Okay? So don't think, oh, but I can't speak like her. I don't talk like Barack Obama, so I can't lead. No way. You can be quietly confident. But whether you're quiet or you're loud like me, you have to have confidence in what you want to do. And if along the way it turns out it wasn't quite what you ought to do, you can make amends and you can change along the way. And then stepping up. I think I could sort of cover that as well. If you're a leader, if you must lead, you must step up. You cannot hide in the shadows. You must step up. You must take that step. And it's only when you take that step, you can take the next step. If you stand here, you can never get there. So it's one step after the other. And sometimes it means putting yourself out there even when you feel like I am not so sure. And finally, please be you. You can't be anybody else. You see, I'll give you again my example, Professor Yudi. I love her so much. Yeah? And she's fantastic, and there's so many things about her I love. And she knows I tell her there are some things about her I can never be. So I just say, Prof, I'm not you. Yeah? I'm not you. You've got to know who you are. And you've got to know what your strengths are. Don't try and be another person, because the day you try to be another person is the day you start to fail. Because that's not you. You can only be a poor imitation. Always be the original. The original is you. So, some essential elements of cultivating leadership. I've listed them on there. I'm sure there are things you all know, but I just want to sort of ruminate on those things. You've got to have integrity. Yeah? You've got to have passion, commitment. You've got to learn how to communicate with people. All of those are important. I'm not going to dwell too much on them because in our breakout sessions, we'll be talking about some of those again. But all of that is truly important. I'll emphasize integrity. If you must be a leader, people have got to be able to trust you. They've got to be able to trust your word. If you're telling somebody, please climb up this mountain with me, if they don't trust you, they won't give you their hands. They've got to believe that when they give you their hands, you're going to hold them up. And then in our modern world, there are a lot of things around us that can help us be good leaders as well. Utilize them. Network. We're all here today. Talk to people around you. Find out who they are. Find out what they do. Learn from them. Tomorrow, you never know. Somebody you met today may be the person who helps you along the way. Networking is really critical. Social media. There are lots of people who are influencing the world today from their bedrooms through social media. That's a very fantastic tool. And something I say is, a lot of the time, a lot of young people spend a lot of time on social media. There's a lot of positive things you can learn from social media. But half the time, we do fritter our times away a little bit. Yeah? Use social media for the positive. Learn through things in social media. Use it to reach out. Use it to communicate. Use it to learn. Whatever it is. But please use it properly. And then you need teams around you. You can never be a leader if it is only about you. And that will mean negotiating how you work with people. So I've just got on there a slide that talks about some of the things I've been talking about, just in a more, if you like, defined form: critical thinking, transformational learning, appreciative inquiry. Continuously, you never stop. That's the other thing. It's a leadership learning never stops. Today I am learning. Tomorrow I will continue to learn. The day you think you finish learning is the day you start dying. And finally, and this really is finally, this is an advert from Apple, but when Steve Jobs was still there, and I love it. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. If you must lead, as I said right at the beginning, you've got to be able and prepared to step out of the box. If you're thinking Nigeria will never change, this country don't die, nothing, I beg. If that's your thinking, you can never really lead in Nigeria. You've got to be able to believe that you can change the world. You can change your world. And when you think crazily like that, like a Barack Hussein Obama, who decides as a first-term senator that I can be president, that is when you become president. Because if you never, ever venture out of your comfort zone and challenge the boundaries that life places on you, you may never, or not you may, you will never achieve. But when you step out, you may not get to the long-term goal, but you'll take at least steps halfway there. So on that note, I will stop. Thank you all very much for listening.
Professor of International Security and Development at the University of Bradford, who knows more places in Nigeria than most of us in this room. And he goes around helping us to think through some of the issues of security. Guys, you have to tell your parents that you have met this man. Because the day I met him, I've been in the university for a long time, I read so much about his work. I heard so much about the work he's doing around arms all over the world. And somebody introduced Owen to me. I still remember how I felt in that restaurant. Owen, that's not long ago. So it's a real pleasure to have this professor with us. My mother always says that there are things you can never close your ears to. This is one of them. So can you please put your hands together as I invite Professor Owen to tell us about how to harness the power of personal leadership.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks very much, Professor Udi. It's a real pleasure to be here. And I'm, as introduced, I'm a professor at the University of Bradford. I'm one of those professors that does an awful lot of things that professors do, publishing, teaching, but I'm also quite a practical person. And as said, I work a lot around the world, in West Africa and Nigeria, but many other countries in the world, on the issues to do with the interaction between security and development. And that's what I'm going to be really talking about. That's where I'm coming from on this question of leadership and the challenges of harnessing leadership in Nigeria and elsewhere to try and help the society become more secure and more developed. So I'll introduce myself a little bit more later, but it is such a privilege to be here, so thanks very much for your attention. So where am I from? That's University of Bradford. That's a picture of the University of Bradford. In our Rotary Centre, our Peace and Development Centre, we're one of the 6 centres in the world that has been selected to be an international centre on peace and development. Excuse me. That selection is by the International Rotary Foundation. Some of you will know about Rotary. There's a Nigerian Rotary. There are Rotaries all over the world. It's to do with, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Of business people that are good at business, they're doing work in business, but they also want to improve the world. And in doing that, they do many charitable works, but they also support big activities. As I came in from the airport this time, I saw a big sign to do with Nigeria, which is polio is almost vanquished. Almost. And in fact, it was just on the edge. International Rotary Centre has played the big lead role alongside, of course, the World Health Organization and governments, but it's raised hundreds of millions of pounds over the last 30 years supporting every society that deals with the eradication of polio. They've chose a few years ago to take their second area of activity, which is to do with peace. So polio first, international health, but of course peace and particularly not only the absence of violence, but the opportunity for people to develop themselves and lead relatively full lives that are not threatened by fears of insecurity, violence, lack of justice, is a second objective. And we're very proud that Bradford was selected as the first International Peace Centre, and we're the leading one within that group. So that's where I come. We do, just to complete the introductions, because they'll be relevant to later, in our centre we do the sort of things that you'd expect an international peace and development centre to do. We teach, research and do practical work on these sorts of issues: conflict analysis, managing, dealing with conflict. What about peace processes and peace building? Not just in places where they've experienced war, but places where there's been experience of tension and violence lesser than below war. Questions of sustainable development and natural resource governance. Natural resource governance sounds like a posh word, but it's all about how to prevent and manage all of the different tensions that are inevitable when, for example, you've got pastoralists and farmers wanting to use the same area and land and coexist productively, or where there's forestry that needs to be made compatible with poor people's needs to develop land and so on. And all around the world, not only in Nigeria, but everywhere I work, when you start to ask the questions, what are the real sources of not only local disputes and tension, but local violences and insecurity that need to be overcome, they're about small disputes that then escalate into around issues to do with natural resource governance, land, water. Of course, then there are the tensions that come at a higher level when you're in a country such as Nigeria, when there's massive natural wealth, in your case oil, and in other cases where it can become a source not only of wealth and riches, but it can become a curse because people compete over it, the resources aren't shared properly, and so on and so forth. So we teach about that, international cooperation, the complex interaction between conflict, security and development in all different levels, at the personal level right to the international level, and so on. Small arms and light weapons, just somebody asked me when what is this SALW? That's small arms and light weapons. Small arms is like a firearm or a pistol or a Kalashnikov. Light weapons includes machine guns and so on. These are the guns that are being used to kill people in the world and injure. One of the problems that I've been working on over the many years has been the challenges of the diffusion of weapons amongst society. There was a time in many societies in Africa or elsewhere that around the place people did have guns, but they had a single-shot hunting rifle. And often that was ceremonial or just for small hunting. Now you can get into the same sorts of disputes, and maybe they're just children. But if they've got an automatic firearm, they can kill 10 people in a minute. You've seen the terrible events around the world quite often when mad people or people who want to make a point, a terrorist point, can just spray weapons and kill so many dozens. So there are times, and we study this, where it's not just about interpersonal violence, but it's about trying to avoid it, because we all know there will be disputes, and human beings being human beings, sometimes that will generate into violence. Trying to reduce the lethality and destructiveness of that so that societies can recover. For example, I've been working for many years now in the Horn of Africa as well as West Africa on that issue. It's such a difference if you've got pastoralist conflicts between different herdsman groups, and okay, there's some violence, but only one person is injured. Then they can have the peace, you can have the traditional, customary conflict resolution measures, which means everybody can move beyond it. But for the last 20 years, 25 years, that's not been the case. You have small conflicts, and you can have dozens killed. And of course, then you go down into a descent of violence. It becomes so much harder to cooperate on other things, to have restitution. So those things matter. And I've been working on those. And indeed, I'm pleased to say that the last time I was invited to go to Nigeria, it was by the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Nigeria has, you may be aware, its own problems to do with the spread of firearms and the misuse of them. And so that is an issue which I know President Buhari has indicated he's very keen to develop a national strategy on. It's complicated, but that was the last time I was here. So enough. What I'm going to talk about a little bit more is leadership in relation to, and the roles, the way of thinking about leadership in relation to developing security and development in Nigeria. Of course, that means education for me. So much starts with education, people's awareness, not only formal education, but in the communities, in schools, in amongst everybody who feels young. We talk about Inbuilt being for the young, but everybody who's energetic and feels young. Research, training, working with others, and this is where I'm talking from really, because of course I'm an academic working in the UK. We can't achieve anything unless we're working with local people in all contexts. Sometimes that's working with governments, but often than not, it's working as part of a complex set of stakeholders in which you have outsiders and people of locality, people associated with the government and local communities, religious leaders, social leaders, and so on, within communities to work together. And we've learned so much. And I'll talk a little bit about those with examples. Now, when I think about leadership, therefore, and this is, of course, the focus of this session, not not my own academic subject matter. I think, what about me? So, I mean, I've played many leadership roles in different areas, academic leadership roles. I've in fact formed 6 different civil society groups, international civil society groups that are working in different places in the world, and I've been chair of them for various periods of time. I'm proud to say many of them are very active and work together. So there are leadership roles. But in a sense, I don't think most of us aspire to be leaders as just aspiring to start as leaders. What we want is effective lives. We want to be effective in making change. Whether that means we start thinking we need to be a leader or not is a different matter. The question is to be effective so that if we care about something and the people and societies we care about, we can make a contribution. Of course, being effective helps our own careers and helps our own sense of well-being, but being effective. But being effective at what? Being effective in promoting good in society and promoting secure, an environment in which people feel more secure, less intimidated, less under threat, and more able to develop themselves through through all of the different dimensions of development. So leadership for me comes from this sense of, okay, in what sort of ways can I or others be effective? Now, sometimes you can be more effective by not taking a leadership role. You're taking a support role. As was said just now, it's a question sometimes, leadership, fellowship, support roles, communicating, liaison, bridge building, all of those sorts of roles are there. But in the end, it's very hard to play those other roles effectively unless you can also step into leadership roles when they're needed. There are times when you step into a leadership role and you discover that actually this is transitional. There are other people that can take that. This is a question of facilitating. There are other times where you have to stick with it. You may not have expected it, but if this process that you've helped support is going forward, then you simply have to step up, as was said, and continue and be committed and demonstrate commitment. I think leadership above all is about trust and people trusting you to be effective. Often leadership roles, as was said, are about, bringing others with you. Now, people want to be represented. People want others to help coordinate and help lead their ways. But in general, either you have a leadership position just by virtue of your position, your president or your headmaster or something, in which case you've got to do it responsibly. But if it's one of those roles that has emerged, it's a question of people are going to be selected who behave with integrity. That means you're predictable. You're dealing with the issues. You're not just being partisan, dealing with favoritisms. You're dealing with the issue to the best of your ability. But people want more than that. There's a lot of people that believe and have good intentions, but leaders have got to have more than good intentions. They've got to have a wisdom and a knowledge which people can trust, which then means, yes, they're going to not lead me in a bad direction, even if they meant well, but that they have the wisdom to reflect, to admit when they don't know what they know, to come back to their community and says, what was the most important issue? Because we've got difficult choices. And to consult, but then to follow through and have integrity in that consultation. So it seems to me that that is the framework. Now, we live in societies, we all live in societies, and this is where I come back to my specialisms in peace and security and so on. We all live in societies which are just full of disputes. In fact, every human society is full of disputes. I live in, I'm half Welsh. Any of you heard of Wales? It's a small part of the United Kingdom. My father's side of the family was mining valley communities, and that's South Wales for you. Now that's a peaceful place, but it's absolutely full of disputes, of course. And the more rapidly a society is developing, the more disputes there are. That's intrinsic. There's nothing wrong with disputes. They are essential. A society would be dead if it didn't have disputes. A family would be dead if it didn't have some disputes. The real issue is how those disputes are managed, how they're handled. And the trouble is that so many of the societies where there's the most rapid development, where there's the greatest pressures, where the disputes feel so core because the margins between poverty and non-poverty seem vivid, are also societies which are bad overall in many ways of preventing those conflicts from emerging into violence or coercion or injustice. By injustice, I don't mean the big concept of inequality or something. Of course, that's important. But just access to ways of resolving disputes which don't refer back to coercion or power. Of course, every dispute can be resolved by the strongest defeating the weak. But that's no good, because that's not a resolution of a dispute, that's simply an overriding, a suppression of a dispute by the more powerful, by the less. As soon as people in a society believe that that's how disputes get resolved, then of course what do? They look to align themselves with people in power who are going to help to exert them and protect them. And they may have good intentions. Of course, they're just trying to work in the world. They're just trying to be realistic and think, well, if I get into conflict, I haven't got a fair dispute settlement system that will help me resolve this. Who do I need to approach that's powerful enough to, and who will, in some sense align their interests with mine, who will look after me in an unfair way, but be my representatives, but not in a way that is supporting broader sustainable justice, but in a way that is just supporting sectarian interests, one over the other. And so this question of violence and the question of availability of peaceful dispute settlement systems is utterly critical to me. And the challenge for a place, not only Nigeria, so many areas in the world, of course in the UK too, but the challenge is I work a lot in Asia, in South Asia and East Asia, in the Caribbean, in Latin America. All such problems are there. It's not only Nigeria. The challenge is how to be a leader in those contexts and take the right decisions. There are many, many people wanting to be leaders, but often they're badly motivated by sectarian or sectional interests, or by their own interests, of course. And the key, obviously, is to meet the challenges of leadership in a responsible way, which doesn't unintentionally create division, but is more about providing sustainable solutions which people will live with without violence and coercion for time to come. So what part of that is interpersonal skills, isn't it? There are so many people I know that get into rows, get into unproductive conflicts without quite knowing how they've done it. They're just not very good at dealing with that. And so there are all sorts of skills, which is about how to manage disputes if you're at the center of them, your own disputes, or if they're in the workplace, or if they're in the community. And so those skills are not only about how to engage with diversity, celebrate it, and with disputes, understand that disputes are inevitable, but to manage them peacefully, which means without recourse to violence or coercion or intimidation or unfair coercive systems to suppress the thing, knowledgeably and wisely. Sometimes the trouble is that there are so many decisions that people have to take, and leaders are partly in putting themselves into a position where they're very actively taking those decisions, where there's a real uncertainty about which side to take. Part of dealing with conflicts peacefully is about not taking sides too quickly and trying to understand how to resolve all interests. But sometimes it's about deciding which side is the right side to take on a particular dispute and knowing how to do that. We all live in very complicated societies. And so in that case, sometimes it's quite difficult to know quite how your behavior and these decisions are relating to wider problems within that community about how to move forward. I think there are general principles, which I'm sure we could quickly agree, but they're not always clear. Cooperatively, creatively. We in Bradford do programs of teaching within schools, for example, which is about school students saying, if there's a dispute, think creatively. It's not just a zero sum. There are so many collective ways of doing things better. So we do that sort of work, and we do that around the world. Sometimes this feels very, academic, peace education, but it's very practical. So for example, just recently, in the last few years, we worked a lot with the government of Ethiopia. One of the big problems with Ethiopia is it's a multi-ethnic society, and when there's some violence somewhere in Ethiopia, it may be hundreds of miles away between one ethnic group or another, it's on the smartphones, and really quickly, that conflict escalates completely different places. You get mobilization in the schools or the campuses where everybody's sort of saying, right, somebody's attacked us, we've got to attack them back. And that happens so quickly. And so there was a problem in Ethiopia. It had a big expanding university area and pre-university area of work, and yet they had so many deaths on campuses and schools about nothing, except for disputes escalating because of something that had happened a long, long way away that was only about symbolic action. So in those cases, of course, you can educate, you can make people aware about the foolishness of that activity. That's one key element of peace education. But the other thing is training and setting up mechanisms within the institutions where there are problems to prevent that conflict escalating, to have people trained to intervene who are trusted amongst the school students or the university students to sort of say no, to intervene that night when it's happening, and to have the networks and to work together. That's a leadership role, but it's a leadership role that is reinforced and harnessed if you have the systems developed, which means, yes, we've all agreed this doesn't make sense. Now what are we going to do about it when people get into a bad temper or they get conflict escalates? In some parts of the world that I work, it's very interesting. There are so many disputes that sometimes turn violent, but they never escalate because the culture and the society stops that from happening. Very quickly, you've got lots of other people saying, no, calm down, come away, you know. Unfortunately, in many parts of the world, it's the reverse. There's so much escalation so quickly. And then obviously 5 days later or 2 days later, everybody thinks, no, let's have restitution, and that's good. But in the end, it's about preventing those disputes from escalating into violence before you can deal with them creatively, before you can have some wider set of understandings. So those are very important too. And it's really obvious how in those sorts of conditions where you don't only have dilemmas and you have people working, but people feel insecure, there's a risk, and there's a risk that needs action, then this question of leadership becomes important to mobilize so quickly. And it also makes it clear, as Ngobo was saying earlier, that those leaders need to come from within society, not just within the communities that are suffering those things, not simply from the top, which will just order a policy or a regulation or something like that. You need support from the top, you need support from those with resources, but no. Now, towards the second part, and as my presentation goes, I should move now to those challenges of taking the right decisions and thinking about how to, as a leader, help develop a vision that makes sense to you and it makes sense to the people that you're working with and leading, or supporting, following, how to understand how to do this in a way that promotes the wider security and development of the people that you care about, which is your country, your community, and so on, and the wider internationals. A little while ago, this is over 20 years ago now, everybody working in development kept their distance from conflict and security issues. They knew security and conflict issues out there, but they had a very simple solution. Everything about security should never get involved with development. Nobody dealing with development should think about security except to see it as a worrying issue, because it was a distraction and it would get political. And the moment anybody talking about education or health or anything like that started to also take into account conflict and security issues, somehow they'd be undermined potentially. They'd be seen as political. That has changed radically over the last 20 years. Instead, it's replaced by something else. For the first time, many people imagine that poor people don't really care about the issues I've been talking about so much because they're so obsessed with, health, food, shelter, and that's true, up to a point. But after a lot of campaigning, there was a decision at an international level, let's ask poor people what they care about, rather than pretend we know. And so there was a very systematic set of surveys, not only in places that have experienced war or conflict, every developing and transitional society. And what they found was absolutely everywhere, security, which means security from violence and intimidation, or access to peaceful dispute settlements, came top 2 of the top 3 concerns of every locality. Of course, there are different localities worrying about other things, and that didn't. And obviously, if you have a humanitarian catastrophe with shortage of food, then food becomes a big issue. But that means that worrying about, there should be no distinction about worrying about how to manage disputes effectively and peacefully and prevent and reduce insecurity, and thinking about the development of your own community. How can somebody who is thinking about starting a small business which involves traveling along bush roads and what have you, really invest in that business if they think the moment they make money it's going to be stolen from them? Or that how can people have confidence in sending young children, girl children or boys to school if they're worried that there's a risk of shaming or there's a risk of violence or abduction? Of course, these are obvious points, but they've now become central. This is just a map prepared with cooperation of the Nigerian government, just to talk about some of the large-scale violences that have taken place in Nigeria in the last 10 years. Not over big issues, but big enough. But they're essentially herder-farmer disputes and other disputes. So it's very live, this issue for Nigeria. And the point I'm making here is that leadership, therefore, not only has to think about leading the interpersonal areas of leading and what objectives, but how they can best ensure that what they're doing is promoting security rather than insecurity, reducing the level of division within the society rather than increasing it, and so on. That's challenging. It means that people that want to lead in this area have not only got to have the personal conflict prevention and peace-building skills, but they've got to have some understanding of how they fit in. So social capital here on this is just an academic way of saying social trust. How much have you invested in each other so that people are prepared to trust you on one time so that they will then later, you can then trust them later and so on. So that it just helps prevent escalation. It improves the creativity with which disputes are managed and contribute to development rather than otherwise, reducing the risks. Conflict-sensitive governance. Have any of you heard of the concept of conflict sensitivity in development? Probably haven't, but it's become really influential because quite often development programs where you build a school, what's happening in terms of water irrigation systems, they're meant well. They're improving development. But sometimes governments and policymakers and development people can be really insensitive to how the people on the receiving end see that. Quite often, if there are societal divisions, you can, without meaning to, terribly intensify some of those divisions by your changes in agricultural policy or by the way in which you locate hospitals or schools. And so this is why the sort of things we've been talking about should be central to everybody who's thinking about leading and contributing to change in quite ordinary areas of life. How much are you paying attention to the fact of whether this is increasing the marginalization of a group that already feels marginalized? How inclusive is this activity? Are there people out there that maybe you think they've misunderstood it, but are they just not understanding what's there, and are they resenting it and seeing this as a source of grievance rather than a source of development? That becomes very important. I am shocked, to be honest, and I'm not easily shockable because I'm quite experienced, how many governments obviously want to promote security and development, but yet when it comes to these sorts of issues are intensely neglectful. They just don't pay attention. And then when somebody complains, they assume this is just political opposition, not about somebody saying, no, we need a slightly better solution so that we're more included. So these sorts of issues come into, are really central. So in this sense, and I just had my 5-minute marker, so I'll begin to move to the last couple of slides. Then there's a sense, therefore, that there's all the personal skills and the attributes and the stepping up that people talked about, and Gobo and Udi spoke about earlier, the two professors spoke about earlier, about all of those things. But I think this sense of providing a sense of direction and having a sufficient understanding of the complexity of the society and the challenges, that you can take the right judgments and people can trust you to be able to, when you say, it's not quite as simple as that, people trust you, why is that? As opposed to, yes, it is, we know who's at fault here. ensuring inclusiveness in many societies is one of the most important issues. Now, to finish, this is a real challenge. One of the problems we have when we're talking about developing a future vision is that everybody's got their version about what the single biggest problem is. Oh, it's all about natural resource governance. Oh, it's all about corruption. Oh, it's all about whatever it might be, bad political leaders. And everybody spends so much time saying, no, it's my explanation that's true, not the other ones, that you actually don't have, in the end, a good, clear sense that you can discuss about what the future holds. Over the last, and which direction to lead in, over the last 15 years, there's been a lot of energy, which I'm pleased to say Bradford, but others have spent a lot of time working, which is how to understand what it is you're really aiming at. And in this concept, in this context, thinking about sources of fragility in society and sources of resilience in society have become central. Fragility means if you go in this direction, there are all sorts of sensible ideas, but actually the society has got vulnerabilities there. It can lead to divisive debates, or it can lead to corruption, or it can lead to all sorts of errors. And those vulnerabilities are not due to a single factor, they're due to combinations of factors. And then in most societies, there are sources of resilience. I talked about earlier, some societies have got plenty of disputes, bad government and all of that, but conflicts don't escalate. Why? Because there are all sorts of societal and other mechanisms which work. So one of the key things that Nigerians, British, everybody needs to do is think about what is it in their society that actually is a real source of resilience, a real source of inclusiveness and sustainable decision making. Build on that, reinforce that, and also have a sense of, okay, what are the areas that we know that there's all sorts of rights and wrongs, but we know we're constantly getting into unproductive conflicts about. Okay, now let's develop strategies about that and have a real honest discourse, that's discussion, conversation in the country about how to evolve that. One of the good things about that is it's not a question of which leader you follow, which party you follow. It's a question of developing a consensus across bridges. It's a question of developing consensus across societal divides about the sense of direction, so that then there's a better chance of building coalitions that are sustainable. So that's what resilience is. It's the ability to cope creatively and respond well when issues emerge that are difficult, when there are shocks, or when there's unexpected division or conflict that can cause problems. And they can respond well to prevent the escalation of conflict, to ensure it's managed peacefully, to use every crisis as an opportunity to improve peaceful dispute settlement systems, which, as I say, are so central to the development of almost everything. So, obviously, we all ask the questions, what are our opportunities to take the leadership roles in these cases? And every decision will be different. What we hope to do with Bradford and with this Inbuilt program is to support and advise and to contribute in our own small ways to all of the discussions that work here. I'm very pleased to see there are some graduates from Bradford here. Chibuka just there, who's taken our undergraduate program in Bradford and is progressing, coming back to Bradford for a visit a little while ago. There's a friend at the back there who took our sources there. We're really proud of all of our graduates, not only from Peace Studies from Bradford. That means that we have the advantage that we've got natural links, which aren't only because obviously we have the daughters of the soil here that are our professors, but also people like myself who have worked in and around the country for such a long time. But we've also got people of all generations with different skills who are embedded and doing really great things in different parts of Nigeria, of course alongside so many millions of others with different backgrounds and training. And we hope to, in the future, work closely with you so that we can follow through with the agendas that we discussed today. Thank you for your attention.
Have two microphones, because when the role model shows the clues, we want you to be able to guess, and we want everybody to hear. So for each role model, we'll expect 3 guesses before the role model then exposes themselves to you. They'll tell you exactly who they are, what they do, and so on. Okay? I might have to roll with one mic. Okay, all right. Okay, we'll start off then. Starting with you, sir. So if you stand up there and do what you need to do. So he wants to know who he is. 3 guesses, please. Can you raise your hand? I'll take 3 together. Right, okay. So we'll start here.
Hairdresser.
That's right. Carry on. More.
Barber.
More. One more.
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay. Shall we take that one and then you can tell us who you really are? Okay. We have a microphone now. So you can help us. Somebody will bring you. Oh, I thought you had a microphone.
He might be a trichologist.
So we're going to ask you to tell us who you are then. It's snow all over.
I'm a general manager for a salon and hair set product services.
Close. That's close. Really close.
Okay, I did an MBA in Bradford, and I've done a lot of jobs, and I've taken a position in a headline service, color hair. So basically, what we do is that we do hairstyles. We also make sure we sell wigs and hair pieces. The main thing of my job is to make sure that we hit our strategy, and that's what we want to achieve in 5 years, 10 years. That's making products for women, making styles for women, and also selling women beauty products. The hairs and the wigs are important pieces in terms of fashion and beauty, but also not just in that areas alone. In places like Lebanon, we are working with some partners so we can make wigs for people that are going through cancer treatment. But because when you go through cancer treatment, a lot of people that have that lose their hair. So not just for beauty and fashion, it's also for people that are recovering from ailment. The Bradford impact is like one of the biggest things that actually got me the opportunity, because actually I got the job through. Yeah, get up. So I didn't know about the job, and he sent me a link that okay, they have an opportunity, they need a general manager, and then I didn't even know what the company was. So I came for the interview. They said okay, it's this that. I said like okay, so basically I did what my MBA. My MBA was in was a general MBA, and part of my course was actually doing a marketing and business strategy. So I just said okay. During the interview, they said okay, we are doing hair products. Can you sell women's hair? I said sure. What is who are their target market? Who is their customer? And what do they want to achieve in like 5 to 10 years? So I made out a plan for them, and in that interview, that's how I got the job. So through Bradford training and Bradford alumni.
Thank you very much, Hilary, there. So, for you lot sitting there, doing hair business is not just about what we're thinking about, it's about actually being human. Because if you go through cancer care and you lose your hair, there is a company here that can help, and is led by one of our alumni. I'm going to move swiftly to the next role model.
You're a lecturer.
You know, a teacher writes, a lecturer writes, and he talks too much. You see, she was talking, professor there, they all talkers. So, university, you say great. Bradford University, great. You can't beat. You can't beat. I had my first degree from Middlesex University, business administration, then went to Bradford and did an MBA. And that was my life. Oh, that is my life. I always say, Bradford is my life. You see, after Bradford, I got a job from Bradford. While I was there, Chief Lampenjo came to recruit people for CFAO. And when I was there, we learned a lot of things in Bradford. Marketing strategy, this and that, and so much. You are a man of everything if you go to Bradford. He came. I think we were about 25 who went for the interview. And I was putting questions. As Professor Hickson will give it to us. Professor Hickson, my good friend, lecturer. I don't know whether he's still alive. Is he alive? Still alive. Very good. So, after the interview, the man said, Chief Lampejo from Abeokuta, Managing Director of CFAO, he said, Johnson Barowe, you are in Nigeria? I say, yes. We give you a job. Wait for your ticket. It was Nigeria Airways. Within a week, the ticket was sent to me, and I came to Nigeria. Clap for Bradford. And Bradford made me everything. I was a shipper, shipping and clearing and forwarding, everything. Became assistant manager and rose to be a manager in Transcap, 29 Bomber Road, branch of CFAO. All cars, Mazda that came into this country, they all came through my hand. And after that, after about 5 years, we have a company called Dumex in Agbara Estate. It's owned by French company and Danish company. And the man who was brought, a white man from France, was mismanaging the place. They just came and they said, where is the man from Bradford? I am in a meeting. And they said, tomorrow, you move your things from Transcap and go to Agbara Estate, Dumex. And so I started working, turned the place. We produced more than any other manager that had ever been there, and that is Bradford. I was there for 8 years, but the day I was transferred away, after 3 or 4 months, the place was sold, but because there was nobody to manage it. Then I was taken to another place that was falling, Sika, in Wharf Road. It was a big business, selling cars, selling papers, various things, selling, what else? I must remember. We were selling nearly everything. Okay? Generators. And it was really fantastic. Then I retired from there. And when I retired, what do I do? What do I do? Who told you that? So I was a teacher, trained teacher before I went to England to study. So I said, it's still Bradford in my brain. What you know best. Somebody said it just now. Yes, you said it. If you imitate people, you will never get there. You should be yourself, original. Must be an original person. So I started Westminster College. Somebody could ask me, why is it Westminster College in Nigeria? Can anybody ask me? Westminster College. I had a friend in grade school there. That friend visited me for a drink. He's from Scotland. Visited me for a drink, and he looked at my photo. And he saw, the day I was graduating, it was Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of England. And then looked further, and he saw my daughter. When she was graduating, it was Margaret Thatcher at Buckingham University. He said, you have something with Westminster. So that's good. So is Westminster College. Westminster College, if you get there, one of the hostels, I gave the name Bradford, because Bradford is my life. I'm trying to tell you that there are many universities, but there are universities which are practical. You learn practical things, not just the theory alone. So Bradford is great. Bradford is what? And is the best you can think of. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There's massive support available on campus by the University of Bradford to international students, whether it is international students office, by the visa support team, or the hub.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to welcome you all here. I was an undergraduate of Bradford University in 1981. My name is Joan. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Joan Odiachi. And I'm happy you have a lot of girls here, because I want to encourage you.
Every time the deadlines are finished.
First of all, maybe I should now.
A secretary or receptionist.
Headmistress.
An accountant.
A principal.
A nurse.
A lawyer.
A journalist.
I started with law at the Bradford University. So, but I moved on to public and social administration, which you can still call public and social policy. So, because my mother was, on my neck, so I had So in Nigeria, you have to follow rules. And I didn't really like, right from when I was a young girl, I didn't like the administration of things. They teach you, you cram, and that, you don't really get the best out of anything. I didn't like that. So I think she quickly saw this and she sent me out of the country. I did my A-level abroad, and then I went into the university. I started law the second year, the sales of good acts and all that. I said, no, this is not for me. And I changed to public and social administration. With public and still help them to get to that decision. So I worked in, I think about 4 ministries, and I worked in about 4 commissions before retiring. And because of the boldness I got from Bradford University and all that, I helped them to formulate policies that have some things to do with anti-corruption. We formed the anti-corruption unit for some ministries. And, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Interiors, and then we helped them to close down NAPEP. I think you've heard about NAPEP. We wound up. If I didn't have that bold attitude which I got from Bradford University, it built me up. It built me up. I could stand, I could talk, attend a seminar. I go to meeting with ministers. And all that. I don't see myself as a woman. I see myself as one of the colleagues and one of the guys. Yes. And sometimes I represent my minister at meetings. I go to meetings to represent my minister, and I come down to Lagos, the ports, all over Nigeria. We do the concession, and we go to meetings, BP and all that and all that. So Bradford prepared me for that. I love my university. I love my university. I retired from the Ministry of Transport in 2016. I had to go to Bradford because I had some unfinished business with Bradford. The unfinished business I have with Bradford is that I missed Bradford so much. I miss Bradford so much. When we were there, we were only 3 girls from Nigeria. The Damole girls, I don't know where they are now, but they stayed back in England. One was an engineer. The other one was a social policy person like myself. And then me. Oh, Nike Falashe, she's dead now. From Bradford University, she went to LSC. She was from Holy Child College. So I came back, and I had to go back to Bradford. I missed Bradford so much. The food, the Alhambra, where we go to dance, and nobody harassed you, and things like that. And then you were on top of your situation. You were on top of your situation. I will encourage the girls, to go there. Yeah, the boys too are okay. I will encourage the boys too, because the guys are going to talk to you in group 2, so you see the way they have turned out. You see the way they have turned out. I like to encourage girls more, because we need them to be encouraged in Nigeria. And Bradford University is a very relaxed place to do that. After education, we go to swim. There's good food. I don't know anywhere else they go there in the university, but we have a lovely shopping center. It's relaxed, and then they give you discount as per your school fees and things. They understand. I had a personal tutor, Dr. Lawrence. I think they later made her. I heard they later made her a professor. She was more like my white mother. She will call me, she will come to my room, she will call me, ask me what I need. She practically chaperoned me around the time I was there. And they are still there, because this time I went in 2016, I met some Chinese undergraduates. I looked at them, I saw the joy in them, and all that. So I'll encourage you to go to Bradford University. You will not regret going. It will make you a better person here. You caught your niche. You caught your niche. You take charge. You take charge. I think my charge was too much for them, so they had to ask, where is she from? I look at them, my mother alone. So I'm happy you are here today. Yes, thank you very much.
Is that okay? Yeah. What am I?
Engineer. A lab scientist.
A researcher. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my name is Bukola Daudu. I'm glad to tell you that I'm a proud bidder. We also use this in bid making as well. How do I say this? Okay, I have my first degree here in Nigeria, agricultural extension and rural development, and I was looking for a very cheap school that would give me quality, good environment. I was looking for discount anyway. I was looking for the best school that actually offered my course in the UK, at least the first 10. And I'm proud, I was glad that I actually met a representative from Bradford University. admission was so cheap, not like very cheap. It wasn't difficult for me. I don't have to write and write and write before I met. But fortunately for me, in Bradford, I'm sure you all know about Nigerian education, how it works. The whole of my school was government school. I wasn't sent to a private school or so. And when I got to Bradford, I must confess, education was different. You know, today I can say that I'm proud. I had to, that when I finished my thesis, I have to go back and to review what I did. But well, it wasn't that bad, but I think education actually went through me, and I was so proud that, oh, I can actually sit down, do a research and all. So during the process of my course, that was when I actually discovered my strength that, oh, I can actually do this. I can actually do this. I can actually do this. Then getting back to the country, you know, you have to write this, do that, and all that. And after getting a job, and I was like, is this what I actually want? Then I actually went back again to the course I studied as well, because that's one thing I'm sure about myself, I review. Do you understand? Because there is no way you have to. I review because I did project planning and management, and every day is a project, from making a coffee, you know, sleeping and waking up, preparing for school, preparing for work, taking care of the kids, taking care of your husband. That is what my mentor makes me to understand that, yes, it's a project. It's a project for you to balance work, balance business, and balance the child. You know, it's a project actually. But there is one thing I want that my mentor, that's Professor Tom Frank, makes me to understand that the only risk you don't consider in life is the weather.
Hello.
Hello? Can everybody hear me? In whatsoever you want to do, the only risk you don't consider is the weather. Because if every project managers consider weathers today, nobody is going to do a project. Do you understand? And while you're doing a project, at the same time, you need to understand, the strengths that keeps you going and not the limitation. And that is why it's good as an entrepreneur. You don't consider your strength, your weakness, but the strength. Do you understand what I'm saying? But with all sincerity, Bradford University is a very peaceful place to be. That you're in UK, you see all these rash things, like we say in Nigeria, Brooklyn and all that. There's nothing like that. I never even knew, well, hostels are very cheap. Living expenses, they are very cheap. And you have the quality of teachers. They are not, and even like, you have quality of lecturers, pardon me. They are not just after you coming and having your certificate. They tend to introduce you to other things and try to connect you as well. They'll allow you to understand that, like, I think Tom Frank did one thing for us then. He called us and told us that, here in UK, we have an association of professionals in this field you're studying. If you don't mind, can you follow us? Well, that's when I was able to meet some project managers in the country. But then I'm going to say over and over again that if you want an education, you want an institution that will teach you, that will pass through you, that will make you to discover yourself, that is going to give you quality education at a cheaper rate, please kindly consider Bradford. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask all our role models to line up here and take a bow? I'm not talking like a Nigerian politician.
And then they add chief to it, so Chief Johnson Barove. Thank you.
My name is John Odiachi, Bradford 81.
My name is Hilary Unachuku. Hilary Unachuku.
My name is Bukola Daudu. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. We're just going to play a little video for you.
And they're really helpful. They're willing to offer help to you as much as possible.
What inspired me to study at Bradford is the higher education that the University of Bradford has. The university has a lot of facilities, and also I found that the university has a lot of people who are great in their fields.
My favorite experience here in Bradford is actually every time the deadlines are finished and everybody just gets back together and we go and celebrate, go to a restaurant, and you just have a really good time.
The University of Bradford is one of the most diverse universities in the world. Our international students officer at the Students' Union manages to organise one world week in which he manages to gather different nations and different cultures all under one roof. They set up stalls, they do food tasting sessions, they do costume parades. When it comes to new countries, obviously it's a very big decision for students to choose because they're going literally 7 seas across. I can say that for a fact that coming to Bradford has been one of the best decisions.
My expectations before arriving in the UK was that life would be very expensive and that I maybe have problems with accommodation. But contrary to all my expectations when I came to Bradford, I found that life was not that expensive as I thought. And also I found that there were a lot of accommodation places. And in the end, I just found that I was afraid of the unknown.
The university is a very secure and safe campus, but we've got extra measures in place which include the Bradford Safe Spot initiative, the safety bus service that goes around the campus, and also our 24/7 security team, which are available on just one call away. So yes, it's a very secure environment and we love it at Bradford.
The people of Bradford, they're really friendly and they're really informed as well. You know, when you go to a shop and they're like, "Hello, hon, how can I help you?" "Hi, love. How's going on today, love?"
Something else about UD is that even though she's been in Bradford for 25 years, she is also 100% Nigerian. So when I arrived Bradford, because I arrived Bradford more recently, I wanted soup. So Professor Yudi said, you want to eat edikaiko? And I'm like, edikaiko? Say, come to my house. So I said, let's go. She is a great woman. Professor Yudi achieved a first-class honors from the only university that has Nigeria attached to it. Not as good as the best, but she graduated with a first class from the University of Nigeria, went to Hull, obtained her PhD, graduated from there. She's been working in so many areas. She's a researcher. She impacts lives. She's a professor of diversity, and she is one of the members of our university executive team. I introduce Professor Udwak Achibong, Chief.
I nearly missed that bit. That's what I really like about Nigeria. You come to a conference and people just lift you up. Serious. This doesn't happen everywhere. Why do we wait until people die and they celebrate them? Make una celebrate me again now. Which one are they? Hey, thank you very much for that. By the way, that was just an opportunity for me to catch my breath after such drama that we got here. That Nollywood that you had here from University of Bradford alumni, I wanted to just catch my breath. So I got my sister to introduce me. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about how to navigate the dynamics of resilient leadership. So, my work has already been done because the first speaker spoke on leadership. So you've got the qualities of leaders and so on. Why didn't you have Donald Trump on your list of leaders? That one are discrimination. Okay. And then when Owen was talking about leadership for peace, he gave a fantastic definition of resilience. And now they've asked me to come and bring those two together and tell you about a resilient leader. So I'm going to try and set some context, tell you a little about the journey of that leader, the resilient one, some of the roles, qualities of a resilient leader, and give you some nuggets on how to succeed as a resilient leader. But I'm going to be honest with you, there are challenges associated with that. So Let's go. I'd like to think that I'm a resilient leader. So I always start a session like this by telling you about me. And it was really interesting when I was compiling my collage, and I wanted to look at photographs that I can associate with myself as somebody who has actually faced things and has worked through those things. So a resilient leader in me. So first of all, I've got 4 children, and that was when I'll tell you a little about what we did there. And then the other thing that teaches me resilience is my mother, who is a retired health professional and currently lives with dementia. Has anybody heard the term dementia before? So, okay. Right, fine. I can just about count how many of you. That in itself makes me resilient. The fact that not many people know what my mom is living with in our country. I'm a nurse, so the next one is how I've built this robust internal resources to make me resilient. All dates back to nursing, and I'm a proud nurse. The next one there, if you look at the one with the cakes, when I celebrated my 50th birthday 100 years ago, I asked a friend in church to design my cake. And she said, "Oh, what would you like?" I said, "No, use your inspiration. Do it the way you want to." And she decided to bake cakes with handbags and shoes. And she wanted to tell me that that's all I'm about. But the story about resilience in that was that I managed to dance through the night without eating any of that cake because at the time I was losing weight. Okay? Resilience. The other part of resilience is the work I do now, helping people to understand dementia. Currently working with schools in Akwa Ibom State and Cross River State to get dementia education into the curriculum. Next one is a pride of joy when the Prince Charles stood in for Mom to adorn me during my investiture as a member of the British Empire. It's how you see, think, and learn in a way that you can bring out those hidden dynamics in whatever engagement you have, in the society, in your school, in your family. A resilient leader is able to lead with calm. So I want to remind you of the definition of leadership that Professor Emese espoused when she insisted that leadership is not just about having a title. You don't need to be a president to be a leader. You don't need to be a politician to be a leader. You don't need to be a pastor or an imam or an alaji or, you name it. You don't need that authority title to be a leader. That a leader is a leader from your seat. So if you think about it that way, it means that in anything that you do, as a student in the school where you're the school prefect, in your church where you're the altar boy, in the mosque when you're tidying things up, you're leading. And people are watching, people are following you. But how do you lead with calmness, with clarity and conviction, with strength? And how do you ensure that you're able to embody and communicate that inner calm when everybody else is screaming? So there is xenophobia, so we get on the streets and start fighting. A resilient leader goes into that same protest, but the embodiment of calmness helps those who are trying to throw stones to drop their stones. That's a resilient leader. We're not saying you can't. Protest is a good way of saying we do not like this, but it has to be non-violent. And what is the role of the resilient leader in that march? Last week or the week before, when people were all over screaming and trying to burn things out, how do you embody calmness in that situation? So why do we need this? Resilience is like, if you compare how the body works, sometimes we fight when we have common colds, and some of us rush to the chemist and buy antibiotics without knowing that the viral attack you have on your body is a way to build your immunity. Because the more your body is exposed to that virus, the more you're building your immunity. So next time there's virus, you're building your immunity. And that's what resilience in leadership is about. It's every time there is that challenge and you address things with calm, you keep building your strength to be a better leader. So I don't want us to sit here and think, oh my God, when there is that loss, when we're all beginning to lose it because there are turbulence in South Africa and Nigerians are being kicked and so on, then we all lose it. No, it's about building our strength, because on a daily basis, you're beginning to learn how to stay calm in that situation, how to lead your peers. It is values driven. And those values are values that we've brought from our religious backgrounds, our families, the way we've seen the world, and that comes together to give us the values. And I know that they're going to be positive values. I know that for a fact. Because every time I listen to even parents of kids who have completely gone nuts as radicals, when they talk, you can see what family upbringing is in there in us as a people. So that those values are really important to drive the way we lead. A resilient leader, I think, has got a very strong faith, strong belief that helps them to give to a higher deity, whatever that might be. It might be Islam, it might be Christianity, it might be African traditional belief. It might be something very strong that gives you that hope. Resilient leader does the thing I call self-mastery. It's fantastic. They're able to just self-teach, self-taught. And I gave an example the other day, which I'm going to give again. I'm from a riverine part of Nigeria, and you can guess from my name that I'm from South, not Bayelsa, but Akwa Ibom State. And we have a lot of streams, little places where grandma soaks cassava. I've never in my life, before 2010, attempted a swim. Even when Mom worked in a polyclinic in Ibna, we would go to the Ibna Sea and just stand there and watch the sea when other kids are paddling. I'll just stand there and watch. But boy, 2010, did I have a major surgery? Yes, I did. And the doctor said, Yudi, you cannot do any active exercise. The only thing you can do now is swim for the next 6 months. I felt sorry, because if I'd done one of those, and then I was thinking, at this age, who's going to teach me how to swim? So I decided I'm going to do it myself. So as a resilient leader, I chose a swimming pool with 1.2 meter. Let's start somewhere. Who born me? Things I born last night. I may have been born at night, but not last night too. So I picked a pool where if I step in, the water no go do here. You know that thing now? So I started. When everybody else they swim, I go enter water, I go stand like this, look what they do. I go look, and then me, I go follow. And then small time, I discovered that if you buy some of those floating things from the web, that you are going to do. My kids told me, Mom, will you stop buying this? I bought what they call a woodle. You know, it's like a noodle, but water noodle.
I got that one. It's like, well, I got the one for here. Then I got one. I got one for my legs. And he said, Mom, stop this. But I tell you, I did that intensive self-teaching on swimming. Within 3 months, I went into a swimming competition and won. That's self-mastery. And for you, it can be anything. So a resilient leader has got that self-mastery, because in order for you to lead others, in order for you to review own beliefs, don't be fixed on that thing that grandma taught you 1,000 years ago when there was no computer, and then suddenly there's computer, you're making everybody do things in a particular way. I'm going to say this. We were in a hotel yesterday, I won't name the hotel, and they ask you to give your email address in little boxes. You know the boxes? Some of us are old enough to remember when you had boxes and you have to put your name U in one box, D in another. And I said to them, why do we need these boxes now to put email address? So my colleague here was busy trying to fit things in boxes. I said, grab that thing and just write your full email address. She didn't listen because she's a conformist. Me, I would just cross the thing off like this, then write the thing properly. It's because there are things we've believed for long that doesn't make sense. I was asking the guy, how do you read this? Does this box conform to a particular reading? Oh no, ma, that's how they've always done it. How stupid. So what are those beliefs that you just need to sit back and think, God, it's not going to work now, because we've moved from doing things this way and the world is going that way, and therefore I need to think through how I lead resiliently in different ways. Build on your strength. Stop kicking yourself and trying to work on your weaknesses. If you build on your strengths, detailed enough, sometimes it gets rid of some of the other things that you don't really want to do. I'm going to give you a good example. Okay, I love food and I eat. So my strength is I eat. That sounds really terrible. But my big weakness is I don't do exercise. And I spend all my time fighting and getting to the gym and crying and not doing much. And I've decided I enjoy eating. I'm going to eat very, very well, but I eat it in the right way. Does that make sense? Okay. So I understand that the problem I have is metabolic. And therefore, if I pack everything in 2-3 times a day, I'm overloading my system. I eat the same amount, but I can spread it 100 times a day. And it'll be a good thing that. Now that's an example. Somebody's going to laugh and fall down here. Okay. So what I do is I love food. I'm not going to kill myself. And the weakness is I don't go to the gym. I keep beating myself up. But what I do is I read around how to eat well so that it doesn't create problems for my body. I leave the gym alone. The more I leave the gym alone, the more I'm being pushed to eat well, because I remember if I don't eat well, I'll split it and eat less. I need to go to the gym. So waiting be your own strength. Build on it. Leave the things that you cannot. Professional self. There are challenges, and I said this, and the key challenges for me would be that suddenly you get isolated, because remember, you're walking against the tide. Everybody is saying, pick the stone, and you're saying, drop the stone. Pick the stone, drop the stone. Pick the stone, drop the stone. Then you might end up where you think, oh, our worlds are apart. As a good leader, you need to get in there and keep doing it. There's something called cognitive dissonance. If you keep doing it and keep doing it, people will say, she's not going to let go. She will still come to the corners and say, let's sit down and drop this tramadol. So, whilst isolation and world apart is there, it's about looking at skills to help us keep at it, even when we are isolated in the process. We will be expected to be like the other person, and then there will be backlash too. But you really need to balance those two positions that I told you.
gaining support and caring for others, there will be a time that you actually say, it's me time. I know the problem around me requires that I do X with more people, but today I'm going to spend more time sorting me out. So it's about caring for me today. There is something about horizontal hostility, and this is what we're seeing in South Africa, and we see it in youth gangs and so on, where we turn on ourselves. There is a huge challenge there. And what I encourage people to do is, if you think about what the problem is, go after the problem rather than going after your own. Does that make sense? Go after the problem. What's creating the poverty? It's not fellow young people. So why are we going around being cultists in secondary school, in universities? Drop those rubbish and stop going after yourselves. If the issue is that the curriculum is not challenging enough, get up and tell the school, we come here and we're really bored. So why are we getting up and picking knives and fighting each other in school through cultic practices? Sorry, I was not meant to get into this, but I just feel the urge to. As a resilient leader, I'm going to leave you with 3 key behaviors that inspire, that deeply inspire others. And Prof stressed this about being your original you. You can never be my imitation, no, if you try and lie. You just get up, begin dress like me, they say, that dress no suit you, now only you if you wear them and get on with it. Have you ever seen anybody wearing pink on a snowy day? That prof no fit do am, but I can and get away with it because it's me. People will clap, they won't clap for her. So remember, charting your authentic path. What is yours? Where are you going with it? Stop being somebody else. Don't be an imitation as a leader. Look at others. So every time you're thinking about a situation, yes, it's okay to think about caring for self, but how is it going to help these individuals around me that I'm inspiring? And lastly, let's create spaces of storytelling, talking. Let's have a way of communicating with each other so that we can all share those challenges that we have behind the scenes. So a resilient leader has to create that space where we can all sit down and talk through that stone that we might want to throw at each other next week. And then let's have a way of saying, okay, rather than stone, why don't we go for a walk? Rather than stone, why don't we go to Alausa, Minister of Education, and ask somebody to come and address us? Rather than stone, why don't we talk to our head teacher, our principal, our colleges, and so on? And then I say, lastly, it's definitely not going to be as straight as you think. Being a resilient leader is going to be like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're doing extremely well, other times you're down thinking, should I carry on? And then you remember that the resilient leader bounces back and jumps forward and keep going because they are the voice for many others who have no voice. And then very, 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 very lastly, I have a definition of leader that helps me that a leader is a dealer in hope. And what that means is that I cannot get up and look stupid because I'm dealing with this hope here. And I am embodying that calmness that keeps all of us calm. Thank you very much.
An accountant.
A bank teller.
Okay. I think I'll just, let me just stop at that. I'm actually a banker. and an accountant as well, so he was right. My name is Jide Bayade. I finished from Bradford in 2012. I have been working in the bank for a couple of years now. What I currently do is I don't work at the front end as a teller, but I support the alternate channels. When we say alternate channels, we mean channels that are not where you don't see customers directly, like your internet banking, your mobile banking, your transfers, online transfers, and all that. And of course, it's a unit that has a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure comes with it because we need to develop products that meet customers' needs. We need to be sure that in the course of our business, the bank does not lose money. And we need to actually develop products as well. And a lot of things I picked from Bradford while studying there are still helping me now in terms of project management, in terms of managing people. You know, a colleague of mine said a couple of weeks ago that, in fact, that's a role made for me because I don't panic. I have a way of managing different stakeholders when there are issues. And of course, those are the kind of things I learned when I was doing things like managing people, change management, and all that. And another turning point for me when I was studying in Bradford was I actually benefited a lot from the quality of lectures I got there. The lecturers were so thorough. They will go on and on until they organize sessions until you get it. They don't want you to fail. And I kept telling my wife then that you just can't fail. If you fail, if you come to this school and you write exams and you fail, it's because you just don't want to fail, because they will imbibe, they will teach you. One course I did not like when I was in school, secondary school, university, was accounting. I hated it. I believe it was boring. But when I was taught business accounting and financial management in Bradford, I told my wife, I said, I think I should give ACCA a shot. She asked if I could do it. I said, yes, it's actually easier than I thought. I registered. Within 18 months, I was done. I didn't have to repeat any course because I had a good background from Bradford. So I believe that studying in Bradford just lays the foundation. It gives you, by the time you're done, you know what you want to do. You have a direction. And anything you just try to do at that point, you are able to do it because the foundation is there. Thank you.
Their best, they give their all. So if you are serious-minded, once you apply yourself, you are going to excel. I think I had a conversation with my supervisor then. At that time, I said, look, I want to get a distinction. And it was like, and tell me what I have to do. When I turn in my work, I want you to let me know if this is distinction level or this is below. And it was like, is that what you want? And it was a partnership. That was how I went about it. And not just the experience, the city itself, it's a decent place to live. The university has all the facilities. The library is 24/7. Well, has access to a library 24 hours, 7 days a week, on 3 or 4 floors. So there's just so much. I can't, if I go on, I'm going to go run past the allocated time. But if anyone is considering doing any studies, bachelor's, BSc, or PhD, they have the best school for peace studies. One of the best in the world. Even I had a friend who went to Oxford. He works with the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. When I said, oh, I went to Bradford, he was like, oh my, so that's a very, very good school. I did an MBA there. So everyone wants to go to Bradford. Yes.
Our voice.
Good day, everyone. I'm sorry I don't have a good voice. I don't really know how to describe what I do, but I'll just go ahead. I actually worked in the bank for 12 years. I'm a graduate of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. I read computer science. I graduated with first class honors computer science. And immediately I got a job in Zenith Bank. I worked in Zenith for 8 years before I went over to UBA. When I was in UBA, I decided to enroll in a postgraduate program because it was not easy given my work. I wanted to work and actually study. So I enrolled in the distance learning program. So I graduated as a distance learning student. Okay? And while running my programs, we had deadlines, we had assignments, we had a lot of things, and that actually shaped me up on my job because meeting up with my deadlines and assignments, and I was heading a team at that time, so it made my team was always doing well. We were always meeting up with all our deadlines and we were all getting commendations at all times. And then when I didn't do the postgraduate program in computer science, I did business management. And right now I'm running my own business, and the courses I learned in accounting, I didn't really like accounting, but it has helped me. Accounting, managing people, organizational management, and there's some courses we learned then, strategic management. It has helped me build strategies in my business, and then backward integration in my, I can't remember the course. It has actually helped me in building my business, see? So I would really encourage everyone out here to really, even if you cannot go to the university to study, you can actually do it here in Nigeria, and it is not so expensive, okay?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zainab Shoemi, and I'll just tell you what I do. I'm an auditor or an accountant, and Bradford helped in shaping my life towards being this, because initially I did an undergraduate in Bradford, and I studied international business and management. However, your opportunities at your undergraduate level to take up every business course. So I went into Bradford wanting to come out as an HR, person. But then along the line, we were allowed to do accounting, tax, and all of that. So I started taking up my accounting classes, and it was just like a walkover for me, getting like good grades. And then I went off to my second year, and then I'm taking up accounting, I'm taking taxation, I'm taking financial management. And then I just thought, I think this is really what I wanted to do. Bradford helped me. It helped me in finding my passion in what I really wanted to become in life. So while I was done, then I went on taking on my ACCA. And Bradford beats you as a whole person. And I believe Bradford should be like your first choice in anything you want to do. Schooling. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Do you please want to come forward and take a bow, and then we'll move on to the next session, please.
Babajide Bayode.
Adigbola Babadi.
Chisoma Mukori.
Zainab Shoemi.
Thank you very much, thank you. Please. I'm glad you are sending handwritten questions in. Thank you very much for that.
The important thing about my postgraduate course is the mix between theory and practice.
I really like it. The complicated people, the options and facilities and equipment, it really is persuading me to come here and study.
What I most about the tutors here at Bradford is that they're always very approachable, they're always quick to give feedback.
I feel that the best things about this postgraduate course in particular at Bradford is the masses of support that you actually get from your lecturers. That's just enabled me to actually push and develop myself further throughout the course.
As a postgraduate, there are a lot of facilities. The main campus has a library which is open 24/7.
And you get access to all the books and journals that you need for your research. And if it happens that they don't have the book that you need, you can ask the staff to buy the book for you as well.
Sometimes go to the support centre and use gym up there.
I also live in the Green, which is really, really nice accommodation that's on campus. So it's next door to the SUs, next door to my department. If I want to stay up late all night and get anything I can, and then roll over 30 minutes later, which I love a lot.
My first week in Bradford was really interesting. During the introduction week, you get to know a lot of people and a lot of new cultures.
Bradford is a homely place because of the size. I settled in very quickly because of that.
I have no problem settling in. Campus is everything you need. It's a very happy bubble where you get to live. I'm Upon my graduation, I already have a job that I'll be starting really soon.
I do feel that the postgrad course has helped my competence, my confidence, my clinical skills going forward in terms of developing me in my career. I think it's helped me massively.
If you're thinking about enrolling for a postgraduate course, I would advise you to look at the courses that are being offered, look at the teaching course, contact the teacher,
And check out the facilities and make me impressed. It's been a really good learning and growing experience overall. I'm really, really glad that I actually came here and did the course.
So does Bradford University do virtual internship? If yes, what is the link? Virtual internship.
So the question of virtual internship, it may be that I'm not immediately understanding what you mean by virtual, but we certainly support students that are studying in Bradford to find internships as part of their follow-on or part of their work. We don't necessarily guarantee it, but we'll use our contacts and use our networks to enable that. For us, an internship has to be fair and productive for the student and the staff member, and therefore accepting internships within Bradford, we would need proper contacts and it has to be a quality engagement. So in general, I haven't heard of virtual internships at Bradford, but it may be that I'm misunderstanding that question. But we're very much in favor of supporting people that link with Bradford that we want to support, that have some links with us, to find follow-on work, including internships.
Just in case they meant distance learning.
No, there is another question here on online courses. So if you were the one that asked that question because there's no name there and you want to come back and ask again and be very explicit, then we will respond to you. But there is a question here about online courses, so we call it distance learning. Are there any chances for all students from other institutions to engage in acquiring degrees from Bradford online?
Yes, but not comprehensively. So I used to work for another university in the UK called the Open University, where nearly all of the courses are delivered online, as it were, distance learning, and it's a very well developed university. I'm very proud of the courses I helped to develop there. But one of the things that implies is that you need to, if you are going to take an online distance learning course, then you need to be sure of its quality, and we need to be sure of its quality before we would deliver it. And so there are a number of distance learning programs at Bradford, and they range across the different disciplines. For example, there are some specialist professional training ones which have been happening from Bradford. But we don't tend to offer all of our programs online because we know that there are some universities that try to do that, but we know you can't guarantee the quality of experience. And so one of our absolute thresholds is we won't offer anything that we're not proud of. And so that means that it's not, you'd have to look specially in the particular discipline to know whether there are online courses. We also have, for people that want to move to maybe PhD or a research degree, having taken a master's, we have arrangements which are called extramural arrangements, where you can register to do that with us, with a supervisor, but it does mean that you can spend some of your time working at you can do that part-time while you're still working on your job at home, or you don't need to be present at Bradford for more than a few weeks a year. So that's another opportunity.
In Bradford, we do run many distance learning programs. You heard from our alumni, those who studied MBA from a distance, so they don't have to travel into Bradford. They can do it from their homes here in Nigeria. So if you want to know more about our distance learning programs, we do them in business, health, dementia studies, diversity management, but you just need to go to the desk at the back, the entrance of the room, and ask questions about such programs.
Peace Studies and International Development also does one or two.
Okay.
But not across all of our programs.
Okay. There's a question here about practical steps in which this program or its organizers take to actually make youth leaders in the true sense of the word. Do you want to take that, and
Practical steps. First and foremost, I think this is a practical step, don't you think? Being here, talking about the principles, giving you real life examples, having mentors talk to you, that in and of itself is a practical step. In that we are going out of our comfort zone of standing in front of our lectures, teaching our students, to actually engaging with you, the youths of today, for what's going to happen tomorrow. Of course, if you wanted to engage with us further, and you came to Bradford, there will be practical things that we do with our students while they are on campus for them to gain leadership skills. And all of us as practitioners work with various organizations, government bodies, to develop capacity and build skills in the communities in which we work. So all of these are different ways in which we do that. But as an individual, today is a stepping stone for you to connect to some of the things that we do and other things as well to start that journey.
Yes, absolutely. And so just to illustrate, I mean, we've been successful in our division, that's International Development and Peace Studies, for raising external money, which means that every year we can take and subsidize the journey of about 30 of our master students, everybody that volunteers, to spend 2 weeks in a post-conflict country. Last year it was Gambia, the year before Rwanda and so on, really understanding the situation, visiting and meeting with the leaders and meeting with the different officials. And so we always take our students, other sets of students, if they're interested, into places in Europe, to places in Northern Ireland, to places in London, where they can actually meet people that are doing work and work with NGOs. We also regularly, and this is true with other divisions in in Bradford, we very regularly, because we have deep engagement with NGOs and government and ministries and so on, we very regularly organise places where our students can meet with them, either in their offices in London or Brussels or wherever it is, or they come up to Bradford. This relates to what with what Professor Udi said at the beginning, and that is Bradford tries very hard not only to do really good theoretical and research and teaching work, but also to make sure that knowledge works. And that means giving people the practical skills that will help them do it. Not only the skills in terms of basic skills, but in terms of networks, in terms of understanding the real context in which different professions operate.
Thank you very much, Professor Owen. We've got another question here. It says, leadership is about following your passion. Wouldn't it be wise to sort out economic issues before chasing your passion, taking into context the economic issues ravaging Nigeria? That's an interesting one.
I'll take it.
Okay. Okay, I'll start and then... Right, okay. I think I was one who said you've got to lead on something or work in something in which you have a passion. And I don't think that's divorced from the economics. Because you know what we say in Nigeria, now where man work, now they waiting, now they chop. So the fact that you are working in an area where you have a passion does not mean that you're not meant to earn a living from that. Well, all I'm saying is this. If you're doing something you really enjoy, at the table at which I was with my young people, for instance, they were all telling me different things they enjoy doing. One liked poetry. One liked art. One liked fashion. These are all areas in which they have a passion. I don't have a passion in any of those areas. But if they pursue things in those areas in which they have a passion, they are more likely going to be successful doing it because they enjoy doing it. Does that make sense? So it is not separating the two, where if you're doing something in which you have a passion, then you cannot follow the economics. The other thing I'll also say is, yes, sometimes you may follow something in which you have a passion, and there may not be an immediate financial reward. Maybe that's the question. But what I say is life is a long journey. It's a marathon, trust me. When you're 15, 16, 17, 20, you kind of think like it's in a hurry, but it's a long journey. So I'll give you an example. When I completed my studies and I came back to this country after my master's, I had the opportunity to work either in a bank that was offered. I had the opportunity to work with Shell. I was headhunted. Or I could do what I wanted to do after a few years of practice, which was lecture. And I went into academia. My first salary was 4,800 naira. The job with Shell was going to pay me 60,000 naira per month. So you can imagine the difference. And that was my basic. I followed my passion. And because I followed my passion, I am enjoying what I'm doing. Now, yes, 4,800 naira in the beginning was a bit of a stretch, and I had to live with family and stuff. But I'm still comfortable today. So even though you may not start off earning the big money, if you follow what your passion is, you're more likely going to excel at it and be able to contribute better to your society. I think that's what I meant.
Very good. And so certainly there are ways of balancing, and every individual has a way of looking at their own economic opportunities and the way that that links with their passion and what they choose to do. Every society is complex, and it's amazing once you become a specialist and once you are well known for your passion and skills in a certain area, it's amazing how many opportunities come so people to carve out a career. There was another way of understanding that question, which was a broader priority. In a developing country like Nigeria, should people really be focusing on economics rather than building society, dealing with peace, security, all of those issues? And I hope what I said at the beginning clarifies my view, which I think is very well borne out through study, and that is that that there's no economic development without other aspects of development which is political, social, environmental, and so on, but certainly to limit the amount of violence and ensure people work in a secure environment. Of course, that can happen in many ways, and it's perfectly legitimate for governments and individuals, societies, business people to prioritize economics. That's not the point. Of course, that's good if that's what people want to do. But the most important thing is if you want to build a good society in which everybody can prosper economically as well as other things, many other things need to be worked on at the same time. And so I would just emphasize, yes, of course, economics is an important element, but you always need to see things in their context. And on a national level, I'm afraid that if you look at the countries which have succeeded economically and those that have not succeeded so well, let's put it that way, one of the really big factors is the level of insecurity, violence, and lack of rule of law, if you like, just dispute settlement within those countries. That makes a really, really big difference. There are societies now that were much, much, much poorer than Nigeria in 1960, like South Korea, Malaysia, but South Korea. And South Korea, of course, had terrible times at certain points. They were living under a military dictatorship, but for a period, that no longer. But after a certain period, after a period of very corrupt military dictatorship, it turned into a country which was very determined to have political rule of law, commercial development, a secure environment, not democracy to begin with, but then after 1998, it could turn to a democracy. So countries can really transform themselves once the elites and the people get their act together in certain basic ways, and it's very important to create the conditions for doing that.
Thank you, Professor Owen. There's another interesting one here that's probably coming back to you to start off with. It says leadership can be a lot sometimes, having to guide people with varying traits. Take, for instance, Nigeria. Do you guys get frustrated? How do you handle frustration?
Yes, I get frustrated. I try and always be very nice and polite and constructive, but of course we all get frustrated. If we're trying to be effective in the world, you get very frustrated a lot of the time. Obviously, the key is not to allow that frustration to grow too far. I always think there's a very strong link between this and trying to understand the situation properly. If you're trying to do things which the situation doesn't permit, then it's always going to be terribly frustrating. What's the next step? To understand things better so you know the first steps that will work in that society or in your own society. And so I work in places that are Nigeria is one of the more peaceful places I work in, and so I can often feel frustrated in some of those environments, where you can see so many things going wrong. My recipe for myself is, it's amazing how many really good people are trying to work in every society to improve the good, even if the situation looks bad. Even if you have violence, it's amazing. You can go to any community, you can find a lot of people that are trying to do the right thing and being brave in doing it. And so the optimism comes from this question of harnessing. If one can change the context in which those people can become more effective, then that keeps me optimistic. The second is always be very realistic in your expectations of what's possible, and then look for the positive next steps. So I think I said in my talk, when your first steps of moving towards more resilience in a society is look what works. Look what is being very effective at preserving unity and allowing people to cope, and build on that and strengthen those systems and try and make sure they're consistent and inclusive. So I certainly get frustrated, but I try and transform that into rethinking a strategy, an effective strategy, in order to achieve what I want to achieve with others.
Thank you very much. That's brilliant. I don't have much to add to that. I think the moral is we've got to remain hopeful and we've got to be resilient and strategize. I've got another question here. There's one here that's for Professor Yudi, so I'm going to wait a little bit for that. But this one says, what is the objective of this program? And another one close to it says, why the word inbuilt, since it's all about Bradford University? So I'll start from, yes, it's all about Bradford University, of course, because Bradford University is here doing this. So we cannot take Bradford University again away from the program that we are hosting today. But I think we said this at the beginning. The reason why we are doing this is that for nearly, since the 60s, Bradford University has been working with Nigerian students. You saw some of our alumni who've been coming for a very long time. And Bradford has benefited and gained a lot from the experiences that we've had with our students. And we sat down to say, how can Bradford give back? Give back directly. Of course, we've been giving back in building capacity, training, and all of that. But we also wanted to invest directly in nation building in Nigeria. And we thought about leadership as a fulcrum, as a focus of doing that, and targeting the youth who hopefully will take us to achieve, to the point where we achieve our goals as a society in nation building. So Inbuilt is really about the University of Bradford giving back. We don't just want to recruit students, we also want to impart something to the students or to the population. So it's not just about people who come and be students with us, but more broadly society, which is why we've organized programs both here and in Abuja. In Abuja, for instance, we had well over 500 students attending that program. Now, they're not all going to come to Bradford University and give us fees. So it's not just about, oh, we want to recruit from you. No. We can do that. And we do have programs where we simply recruit. But we wanted to come here and also give back to the youth of Nigeria. And we wanted to showcase Bradford and what we do so that you'll also learn and understand about Bradford. Now, why the word Inbuilt? It's very interesting. I still remember Professor Yudi and I sitting down together with Sheila saying, okay, what are we going to call it? We said, okay, the leadership program, and what will it be? And we played a lot of ideas. And eventually we came up with this. And when we tested it, a lot of people liked it. It means different things to different people. I think it would be interesting for me to ask, what does Inbuilt mean to you? But it is a leadership program. It is branding because we also don't want this to be a one-off. We want this to be something that we carry on doing. It means something to, but I don't want to say yet. I would like to hear later what people think.
Yes, and just to add one other point, and that is, this of course is not the only thing that Bradford does with Nigeria. There's this particular program which is funded by Bradford in order to try and give things back. It's true that we also highlight the opportunities at Bradford. We don't want to do anything other than encourage new students. But we have other programs. So for example, I did say that I came 2 years ago to work with the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and that wasn't anything to do with courses or anything like that. It was about trying to offer expertise and experience from other regions in order to help those people that are interested to do things better. One of the results of our meeting yesterday with the school board and senior members of schools was there was an interest in seeing if we could develop a project to improve security for school children in hostile environments. Often children who are going on their way to school can find it intimidating, or their parents find it intimidating because of the insecurity in the area. In some areas, because of gangs, because of crime, because of political violence, sometimes even the environment of school is not safe. We in Bradford have got quite a lot of experience with that in some other countries, and so this was just an illustration of what was being said, that this isn't a one-off event. So we're hoping out of those discussions to develop a follow-on event, which is about trying to frame, what could be done with certain schools in Nigeria to help to bring some additional resource and thinking for improving the conditions under which particularly poorer school students often operate if they're in areas in which they feel insecure.
Thank you very much, Professor Owen, for adding that. We do a lot in Nigeria. I think Professor Yudi earlier on talked to you about the dementia program, which she does with schools, with organizations, hospitals. She's come, I think, 3 times this year talking to people in hospitals, in churches, around dementia awareness and how we treat people with dementia. What we believe in Bradford is that knowledge is to make change in society. And our strapline in Bradford is making knowledge work. So this is part of that. For instance, this year I'm involved with a project in Nigeria looking at oil spills in the Niger Delta. That's my contribution to Nigeria as well. So both on individual level and as a corporate body, we do that quite a lot. There's another very interesting question here. It says, how can you build a team when your friends and close affiliates are doing something else? Want to have a go?
I'll have a go, but do you want to have a go first? So what was the question? The question is, how do you build a team when your friends and associates are doing something else? No, well, in that case, there's no point in trying to lead people who don't want to go in the same direction, who are not interested in that issue. I mean, there's a difference between disagreeing with you and just disinterested and so on. Obviously, this is about, I said earlier, and very consistent with other talks, that this is about being effective in society and making change. But obviously, if you're leading, you need to be effective in making change with people that want to be part of that change. And so part of being an effective leader as you grow into the role is having wider and wider networks of associates so you can be more effective in representing communities and groups that you talk to, that you do lead or you're influencing in, and so on. But obviously, I don't know what the questioner had in mind, but if they had in mind a particular project and none of their friends are saying they're interested, then either you decide to work on something else, which would mean that that's fine too, or you look around and see if there is a real problem. Sometimes you think there's a problem and nobody else cares, and that's because there isn't a real problem. You've just misunderstood what the issue is. But quite often, even if there's a misunderstanding, there's a problem there somewhere. And you need to, because if you've worried about it, then that means there's something there. And then it's a question of consulting with all of those people that may be affected by it or may be part of the solution and seeing if you can build a group that is interested. And I think that one of the roles of leaders, which is often, we didn't emphasize particularly in our talks, is the issue of what we call in Europe policy entrepreneurs. Those are people that see a problem, think that although there's lots of people working on different aspects of this problem, nobody's quite thought about the way of bringing things together in order to mobilize a coalition around that issue and highlight the agenda to agenda set. And that's a very important aspect of leadership. It's not the only aspect, but it is an important aspect. And so maybe that's the other issue. If your friends are not interested, maybe that's because it's not framed yet, or associates in a way that makes sense to them, or the way they believe that something can be done. Sometimes people aren't interested because they believe nothing can be done, in which case you have to set about and show that something can be done, even if it's a small step. So I hope that addressed the question.
Thank you. I'll just say something else that we say a lot here in Nigeria. Sometimes, what do they say? Show me your friends. Birds of the same feather. So maybe there is your answer as well. That maybe you're not with people who think the same with you. So again, like I give myself as an example, I don't like art. If somebody wants to change the world through art, I'm perhaps not the friend they want around them. Does that make sense? Professor Yudi is not here, but I think this is an important question, so I will raise it and we'll kind of deal with it. People ask what she means by horizontal hostility, and I think it's important. I'll let Owen deal with.
I'm not quite sure. I know what I would understood Udi to mean, but it may be that she would want to elaborate. I mean, people who are working alongside you or people who believe they have the same status as you in some way or other can often be hostile, partly just through personal jealousies, of course. If you're effectively mobilizing and you're in an institution and you're changing things, that will have implications on others working elsewhere in the institution. They may think you're changing things in order to sound superior to them and get better resources. And so that is a classic challenge in all managing change, how to do that. Of course, change must be disruptive. And so that's bound to happen. And the question is how best to manage that. Part of it is about having clear communications so that people really understand what's happening rather than the rumors and myths. The other one is trying to make sure that people understand that what you're doing is, the reason why you're doing things is the reason you say you're doing things. Sometimes people feel very bad if they suspect that you're saying you're making change for one reason, but actually you're doing it for another, to empower your group, to privilege yourself, to do all of that stuff. So part of it is about trust and integrity, part of it is about communication. But there are many other aspects of this. This is an area much studied about how to manage change against horizontal resistances. The main one is to see how one can change one's agenda, the change agenda, how you can adapt it so that more people see the benefits for them, so that it's more inclusive. I've seen some managers of change in institutions or in society where actually they've judged it to be the best leadership role to take a backseat, so that they're making sure the agenda is moving forward. They're powerful enough for that, but they're allowing others who are majorly concerned about bureaucratic politics or reputation to have some kudos from this, to have some reputational benefit. So there are those sorts of ways of handling this. So Udi, the question was, could somebody understand what Udi was talking about when it came to horizontal tensions? And I was just talking about horizontal hostility. So I was talking about my understanding of some of what you meant by that. A wider point, before Udi wants to come on and maybe say something else, is that one of the things that seems, even on a broader societal level, people are often prepared to put up with a lot of inequality between elites and poor people. What really makes people resentful and maybe more prone to violence or, being mobilized is when they think that people who are not above them, but they're next to them. They may be a different ethnic group, they may be a different religious group, but they think they're benefiting, some other group isn't. And societally, that is one of the main ways in which tensions arise. We were talking in our group at lunch about some of the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. It's unfortunate often that when people feel angry, the people they attack are the vulnerable people next to them, because they think that they think that somehow think life is unfair, rather than changing those boundaries. We just need to recognize that. It is never a good, sustainable, long-term strategy to generate conflict horizontally between groups, provided there is a peaceful agenda which enables marginalization to be addressed. Of course, sometimes there isn't, but that's only true in very harsh dictatorships. It's not true in most societies where there's nearly always a better way. Udi.
I think, Owen, you've given a very good description of what it is. So what we find in the world around us is when you have a problem, rather than looking at what might be responsible for that problem, you turn around and blame somebody who is more oppressed than yourself. So the issue in South Africa, there are things to do with leadership. I have no problem with that. But there's that bit about how there is poverty, we're marginalized as a people, rather than actually looking at what's causing that marginalization, challenging the government about poverty and poverty eradication. What we're doing is we start blaming ourselves. You've taken my job, we have it in Brexit as well. Some of the issues around Brexit and how we have class wars is us turning onto ourselves. So it's usually about, I feel oppressed, and therefore I turn around and oppress somebody I think I am more senior to hierarchically. So that's exactly what Owen has described. And I think in terms of our continent, there is still this lingering colonial thing of divide and conquer, and how we haven't moved out of that. I know it's going to take time, but it's about actually facing up to what the issues are, rather than attacking the power, we attack ourselves. So horizontal hostility happens that way, forgetting the real cause of the problem, but blaming it on your brother or your sister.
Thank you, Professor Udi. There are lots of questions on here asking about scholarships, whether we have PhD supervision for specific subjects, how much for specific courses. I think there's a table out there where we have a team. So please ask your specific question when you get there. We'll be there waiting to answer your question very, very clearly. If I go in there, there'll be far too many of those. So I don't think that's for this one. But there's a table out there. When you get there, there'll be people there prepared to answer your very specific question. We've been here a very, very long time. I think we've taken quite a number of questions. There's just one last question perhaps I'll take before I hand over to UD. And it's just because it's a practical question. And either we or some of our alumni may be able to help with this question. It says, I'm a team member in a project. How can I step up my game to be noticed as an aspiring leader? And there was another one closely linked to it, which said, how do I deal with a difficult boss? And I thought they were both important questions that I thought we should do. I don't know who wants to have a go.
How do you deal with a difficult boss? I think you have to understand why they are difficult. One of the things that I see with people is, again, back to what's really the problem here, or am I just giving it a label because I don't want to deal with it? So what's the team arrangement and what's the team dynamics? How do we get into that? Because as a staff in an organization, you also have a responsibility to really check out what's going on around us in that organization. So how do you define difficult boss? Because some of us and all of us have been labeled like that at some point. So one of the things that I do, if I hear somebody say, my boss has done that, don't forget, we are going to be taking this from multiple perspectives. So I would want to explore some more what's really going on. If I have an opportunity to advise a colleague in that situation, I always say, do your own bit. What's your own responsibility in that situation? You're doing your job, fine. What's the difficulty like? Well, they're not letting me speak. Then you have to face up to it and just say to your boss, why is it that every time I'm trying to say X, you are doing Y? Can we talk about it? But there's something about actually picking it up as it is rather than denying that things are going bad between boss and yourself, and ensuring that you can challenge it in that way. So I'm back to some of the things that Professor Ngobo shared. A good leader is confident, but you cannot be confident stupidly. You have to be intelligent enough to know what's really going on there. So somebody talked in my group about emotional intelligence, knowing the context of work, being able to ask questions, but ask those questions tactfully. I think there's something I really love about us. We are boisterous, but sometimes we do not understand the boundaries between being assertive and being aggressive sometimes. We can be a bit confrontational. If you're dealing with a difficult boss, it's not the time for you to be confrontational. It's the time for you to have a cool head and ask the right questions. That's all I can say.
I fully agree. I mean, I think the problem is that there are an awful lot of quite bad managers. And there are also people that see their way to succeeding in the institution about currying favor with their immediate boss rather than playing their function well. And the problem is that if you're not careful, you can feel you're drawn into a competitive game where you're trying to beat your co-workers in terms of favoritism with the boss. And I think, of course, that's fully understandable. People have to adjust. But I agree absolutely with what Udi says. One also has to keep one's integrity and dignity and make sure that you're always performing as professionally as possible and that nobody can criticize your performance for your actual responsibilities. Then there are times, I mean, sometimes one just has to move to a different position if the boss is really poor. And there are, unfortunately, some bosses that believe that in order to be a boss, they've always got to take the credit, for example. And that can be very frustrating if they then don't transfer the credit within the team to where it's justified. We all have experienced these problems. I couldn't agree more with Udi about the strategy. It's a cool head, but still an assertive position. One's got to think about one's own interests, but to the extent they're affected. But above all, if you care about your job, it's about caring about having good quality services and doing what you can, your bit, to achieve those.
Thank you. And the other bit of the questions was how I can step up my game and be noticed as an aspiring leader when leading a project. I don't know if any of our alumni wants to take that on. No? Okay. How can you be noticed when you're leading a team in a project? One of the things I say is that oftentimes it's not really about trying to get noticed. It's not actually trying to be the leader. You get noticed by simply doing and being good at what you do. If you're leading a project and you're the team leader, do. Don't do it because somebody wants to see you, not because you want somebody to see you, because then you'll be acting. You'll be putting on a show, you'll be performing. And I often tell people that it is when you do that, it's easy to know. People invariably, people find out that you're just putting on a performance, you're doing this for show. I think work should be something that you feel committed to and you do. And that's why passion is also important. That you do because you enjoy and because you want to achieve a goal. There is an end and you want to achieve it and you want to be part of that achievement. Sometimes that may mean that you actually cede the limelight to somebody else. I know it sounds tough. Sometimes you may do something, have a brilliant idea, and cede that limelight to somebody else because you want that thing to happen. And you may think like, oh, I'm losing up, they're taking advantage of me and all of that. But what I've often said is that the learning you had in doing that, you will replicate again. Because remember what I said about being authentically you? Because that thing that you did, that you ceded the limelight for, came from you, something else will come from you again. And ultimately, it will become clear that you are good in the team that you're working in, that you're making things happen. Colleagues will begin to identify and begin to recognize the skills and the talents that you bring. When they say, oh, who wants to work together with it? Because nobody wants to work with somebody who is not a good team player. Everybody will say, oh, actually, I want to work with A. By the time 5, 6 people keep saying, oh yeah, I want A on my team, it becomes clear that you're doing a good job. So what I would say is this. Your aspiration shouldn't be to be about getting noticed. Your aspiration really should be about doing the very best in what you do. And as long as you do that, I can assure you, I can promise you, you will get noticed. Does that sound right? And I'll just...
No, good.
I think so. I just wanted to see if Uyude will come back in, but she's not here. I think we've covered a broad range of the questions, most of the key ones. There are other questions that are slightly different, worded in different ways. Is there anything somebody asked that they think we haven't responded to that they really want a response to? Yes, I know you said Udi was awesome. I'll tell her.
Can I just add that, of course, Odi, if she was in the room, she would be saying, of course, we'll be looking through these SLICO questions, and we can respond to some of those. The ones that we can respond to through that, we will respond to by the mechanism, by the way.
Yeah, and please, the questions don't stop because the program stops. You can keep sending to this. I think it's open for how many hours, Professor? For 72 hours. And we'll, in the end, look at it and find ways in which to reach out to you. But now I'm going to hand over to the only person who can actually close this properly, Professor Yudi. By the way, they all say you're awesome.
I have seen that. I've been a bribery that on our wedding. Thank you very much, my people. It's not called bribery, it's called malpractice, societal malpractice. If you put Oyibo on top of them, it will be bad thing. I don't know what to say. The fact that you are still here means that you deserve a round of applause. Some of you are not clapping wholeheartedly. You've eaten, clap for yourselves. You know, I'm trying to get you to practice everything that you've been taught today. One is about having a life of celebration. A good leader is somebody who can actually stop and say, do you know, I got that really, really right. So that they can also turn around and say, oh, I made a real mess there. Honesty is so important in leadership. So when I asked you to clap, I really meant it, because you have survived a wonderful day. If you want clap, clap well now. Thank you very much. I think you'll agree with me that the speakers have done a fantastic job. So I'd like you to put your hands together. These wonderful speakers, they've taken all your questions. They've not just done the key, they've also done everything else that you can imagine. And what can I say about our facilitators, our alumni, our achievers? Please, can we clap for them? Thank you so much, Bradford University alumni. We are so, so proud of you. Thank you for your contribution today. Where is Mr. Ituen? Is he here? I'm going to thank Mr. Ituen in absentia. I think he's busy somewhere at the table there. Mr. Ituen has been very, very good in helping coordinate the whole of this program. Thank you so much, Mr. Ituen, for doing this for Bradford University. We have adopted Mr. Ituen, so he's going to, I don't know whether he's going to study in Bradford. Get your money ready, sir. Thank you so much. We really appreciated you. Lead busy, Mr. Enoch and co. Mr. Enoch, thank you so much. So this guy here has been leading all the social media campaign for Inbuilt 2019. And do you know, I forgot to say to you that on Wednesday, Inbuilt Nigeria trended on all platforms, particularly Twitter, because of the heavy work that you've all done together, led by Lead Busy. Thank you so much, Enoch, for leading this activity on our behalf. Shirley Hurst. Shirley, come in. Come in. Everybody, start clapping. Clap, give her a Nigerian clap. Everybody clap. Clap. Shirley doesn't know why we're calling her out. Shirley ran a session on personal branding, but she doesn't know why she's here. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Shirley. Happy birthday to you. So it's interesting when you have a colleague. I'm sure she was trying to keep this birthday to herself. When she was told, you're coming to Nigeria with us, and it will be from this time to this time. So it just sneaked out slightly. Oh, it's my birthday on the, I'll be spending my birthday. I said, we're going to give you a Nigerian birthday. So it started now. Yeah. Tonight, we're going to have a proper big Nigerian birthday splash. Thank you so much, Shirley. Thank you, Siobhan, all the Bradford delegation. Asa, thank you for your hard work. It's been such a joy to work with a team like this from Bradford. We have worked flat out. If you want to know our itinerary, you think your politicians are busy, just think about this delegation. We've been to Ghana on this trip, Calabar, Uyo, Abuja, Lagos, mainland, island, Victoria Island on Monday, but we really enjoy it. When we have audiences like you, you're so responsive. So please, if you forget anything, we should stop looking up to other people to lead our lives. What we're trying to do in this session is to tell you that you've got what it takes to contribute to nation building. It takes, see, Naija, we get plenty things. So somebody told me, say, Naija no they carry last. So young people, including me, we cannot carry last because we have those innate leadership talents in us. And what we've done today is just to try and awaken it. But we're going to do it resiliently. We're going to do it in a way that other people will be asking the question, how did you get that? And you'll say, listen, I've always had it, but it took a few people to tell me to be confident in how I use those skills. So please, please, guys, practice what we have preached today. Make sure that you remember the University of Bradford. We are giving back, and we want an opportunity to host as many of you in Bradford as possible, or to host as many of you doing Bradford programs through distance learning. So on that note, I want to thank all of you again. Thank you so much for honoring an invitation and being here. Thank you.
And if you have anybody who is in VI, will be VI on Monday, Oriental Hotel. Powerful lecture, powerful feeding, powerful networking. See you on Monday. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you too?
I'm very fine, thank you. It's been a fantastic day.
Of course, I can tell. Okay, so you put all of this together.
Well, we put all of this together.
Yeah, that's why I say you, because you are representing them. All right? So, can you tell me how fulfilled you are right now?
Of course, as I would always say, the best people to judge what happened today are our participants. But the feedback I've been getting so far is that they got what they thought they wanted to get out of it. Our aim was always to impart something, and I think we've done that. The turnout was good, the engagement was good, fantastic question and answer session, networking. I think it's been fantastic.
So overall, you think you've done a good job?
Like I say, as a teacher, I never rate myself. Somebody else rates me. Am I happy? Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma. Do have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, I'm fine. My name is Esther.
Your name is?
Esther.
Esther. How is Esther doing this evening?
She's really, really good.
So how is Inbuilt 2019 to Esther?
Wow, it's really great. I would say it's really great. I was impacted.
All right. Can you tell me one or two things that you are going to be taking home from Inbuilt 2019?
I'll be taking one thing home as a leader. You just have to be yourself. Don't imitate others. Be your original version of yourself. And that's the best for me.
Beautiful. I like that. All right. One word for Inbuilt 2019.
I would say it's fantastic.
Fantastic. Have a fantastic evening. Good evening.
Yeah. Evening.
How are you?
Good.
All right. Can we meet you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what's your name?
I'm Harrison Peters.
You are?
Harrison Peters.
Oh, interesting. That name is very beautiful. I'll try to pronounce later. Yeah. All right. So, how did you enjoy Inbuilt 2019?
Oh, man, I must say, I got so excited over there due to what they've taught so far. It's pretty much good.
Oh, interesting. So, can you tell me, like, one or two things you learned today?
I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff about leadership over there, that no matter what, lots of people trying to talk you down, you should just get from there. Just keep going and not just get discombobulated. Believe in yourself that you can transform the world and keep going. If you need to upgrade educational aspect, you go for that too. It helps you to transform the world.
Oh, interesting. So what would you say about Inbuilt 2019? Just one word.
I would say it's a vital.
One word.
Vital.
All right.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm cool. I'm very cool.
I can see you look so excited.
Thank you.
Okay, so how has Inbuilt 2019 been to you today?
Today, I didn't expect less. When I registered online, because I signed a program, when I saw the Inbuilt, I said this is one of the programs, because I was at the other hotel, the Radisson hotel last time, which we talked about the leadership. And coming here today, I couldn't expect less. I was overwhelmed, with, especially when in the group section. We are given the chance to also to speak out, to speak our own, to share our ideas on how to the resilient leaders. It was so impactful.
Interesting. So one word for Inbuilt 2019?
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have an awesome evening. Darling.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you too?
I'm fine too.
So how's it been for you today with Inbuilt 2019?
Wow, it's been educating, it's fun. I really enjoyed myself and I learned a lot today.
Do you mind telling us like one or two?
Yes, I've learned what it takes to be a leader, characteristics of leadership, and most importantly, being a resilient leader. Wow, it's something that I have found here.
Interesting. So would you say that Inbuilt 2019 met your expectation?
Yes, it does, and I want them to keep it up. We need things like this in Nigeria.
So what would you say to the organizers?
Wow, how awesome, and I'm very, very grateful to the organizer. They've done so well and good. May God Almighty reward them.
All right, thank you so much. Be good.